What?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We got that one close there. Not exactly how I wanted it to go, but hey, we're here.
Oh.
Slightly on time.
1 second, I think I'm having it. Oh, god damn it. 1 sec, Carl. I think my screwed up here. I am so sorry. Apologize. Let me just make sure I got.
On the plus side, everything that I made today
need to
works.
recheck my headphones.
That's the important part. Everything works.
I'm so sorry about that. I'll just make sure I got everything right and can't hear anything. What the hell? Okay. Calm down, Charza. Calm down. We can get through this. Okay. Let's see. Okay. And oh my god, why is this happening to me? Oh.
It's because you touch us.
Okay.
It's because we touch ourselves at night. That's why.
Why can't I hear anything? Wait, no, that's not it. You frick. Oh my. What the hell is going on? Just the one day it's gonna. Oh my. Why are you doing this to me, computer? Oh my god, I don't know what happened here. I am so sorry. Oh.
These things happen.
It's like, okay, you know what? I know what I'm gonna do. 1 second. Oh. Okay. Let's. I know what the problem is now.
What was the problem? We're currently experiencing technical difficulty, Carl's.
Can you hear me, Carl?
Ow!
Carl.
Ow! Yes, I can.
Okay. I'm so sorry about that. Freaking hell! I don't know what happened. It was something with the microphone and probably static screwed up. Okay. I'm okay. I'm here. I don't know what happened, but okay. Could you hear me at all?
Yes, the entire time.
Okay. Of course. Okay. Good. We're good.
Everybody heard.
I'm so sorry. Sorry. I don't know what happened. I'm sure. I couldn't hear anything. So anyway, go.
Hello, everybody. It's your boy, Carl. And the puddle that was formerly known as Charza.
Yeah, I know.
It's episode number 3. We haven't
Puddle
been canceled
of embarrassment,
yet.
Yes.
We haven't been canceled yet, but people are trying. So how are you doing today, Charza?
Oh, they are? I haven't seen anything yet. I don't know about you. I mean, I'm sure they're more focusing on your end than mine, but yeah, whatever.
My daily experience begins and ends with people being mad at me. And it begins and ends with me laughing at them. I'm laughing at a person right now who's upset for some fucking reason. But they, it's cringe. Just cringe. But then again, that's every single day on Twitter. I think today was... Last night, I saw the creator formerly known as Sins and...
People with too much time on their hands, they
JXC.
say. Or as I say.
Basically upset about things. And they got mad at me because I made a comment saying that I allow them to have their opinion. They're entitled to the opinion that they have. Particularly the thing that they were upset about is the non-observational, non-comedy of CinemaSins, and they were upset because they claimed that jokes that were made in supposed bad faith were tasteless, bigoted, and if people laughed at those things, it made them bigoted. It is the weirdest cope, because it doesn't make sense, because there was no actual determinant in what actually made it bigoted. It was literally just, these things were bigoted because I didn't agree with the observational humor. Which, if we're going to...
May I ask?
Yes.
May I ask, what was the subject of the CinemaSins that they got upset about? I think that'll explain the whole situation.
Oh, it doesn't. Like, it's a video from 2 years ago. And
what is what are they covering?
Let's see her. Opening my fucking Twitter.
My point is that it may explain the crazy just a bit. I mean, when we know what the fandom is, you know.
Well, see,
that's what I'm curious.
That's kind of the problem, because the thing is that Jay's kind of what's the nice way to say this? There's two ways I could say this. I can be an asshole about it because I'm entitled to be, or I can be nice. The nice way to say this is that Jay's having himself a settling of identity crisis. Because before, Jay Exy, formerly known as SinSins, one of the many creators that came up in the heyday of just shitting down the throat of CinemaSins for all of their inconsistent sins, where they try to throw half-baked jokes and completely failing non-jokes, sexual puns from Jeremy Scott's, and lap that together with actual criticisms and actual cinema sins in their videos. They have decided to start a new journey in their life and transition. They have completed their transition, and well, I'll let you draw your conclusions from there. Unfortunately,
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Unfortunately, the video in which they're questioning from over 2 years ago is the video entitled "CinemaSins videos are not satire; they're just poorly written." And the entire context of the video is JXC picking over the observational non-comedy humor of CinemaSins. But the problem here is that, number one, of all the videos that you could pick, and of all the creators that you could pick to yell about, you pick Jeremy Scott's, the milquetoast person who's quite literally courting the BreadTube audience, who doesn't give a shit. That doesn't give a shit about what he puts in his things anymore, because the man's already a multimillionaire. So, why? Why would you get mad about this? More importantly, why would you get mad about it to the point of A-logging about it on your Twitter account? And then the third thing is that they were looking out and searching for people. I didn't tag her. I didn't direct a quote tweet at her. I simply made observations on my own page. And somewhere, somehow, either a member of my audience telling them in DMs, or one of their member of the audience directing her attention to it, over about 14 hours ago at the beginning of the day, got mad and said, well, the description and determinant for what I made the joke here was clearly there in the tweet if you had just looked at it. And I had to tell them, no, I looked at it. I wrote 2 threads about it, actually, about how I don't think it's smart, and I even gave counter-arguments to it. But you kind of just seem to be sniping in my comments at people, telling them that they're doing strawmans. So, I invited them to have a debate with us, should they choose to pick up the gauntlet.
I remember this now.
When they so choose. I told them my terms. Number 1, we have an intermediary and a moderator, third party. Number 2, we post the full context of the entire discussion and situation, since it would literally be a debate about jokes. And neither of us gets to erase it. They get to have a copy, we get to have a copy. If they choose to make copies of it and clip those things for video context later, they are more than welcome to do that. But the archive of it stays live and doesn't go anywhere. And then finally, they have to agree to not doing that BreadTube shit. Specifically, antagonizing people on air and acting as though they did not quite literally shit stir the moment before. Those were my terms.
And I think she didn't bite. I'll go out on a limb and say she weaseled her way out.
No, she lives in the UK, and there's nothing that says that Jay has to do this. That's the key part here.
Well,
there's no skin off our back. Yeah. There's no skin off her back. There's no skin off my back. If they disagree vehemently and also say, fuck you, Carl, we're not going to do that. Okay?
Like, yeah, I figured that was what the situation was. Like, I didn't think you were going to hold her to her fire. I felt it was a voluntary thing. Otherwise, you wouldn't rope me in.
I mean, you are here. You are the co-host, and you would be part of the moderator team, but it would need to have one person for her, one person for me. Mm-hmm. They control the conversation. Nobody tries to talk over each other. It's a normal discussion, not blood sports. Mm-hmm. Because blood sports is fucking gay.
It's... I will agree. Yeah.
I mean,
you were describing like a blood sports, and I'm like... Or you were describing BreadTube, and I'm like, so blood sports, basically, because that's all Destiny does.
Not quite. Destiny's actually a pretty good debater when he's not, well, now that he's being antagonized by the very people who he considered to be smart enough to not do that, and he's realized that they're not going to not do that, he finds himself in that position where he has to basically hold them by their fucking collar and rope them the fuck around. Like, just before I went live while I was playing Diablo 2, waiting for the podcast to start, before I was then forced to start cooking, it was actually a broadcast for PSA Sitch and Adam Friended running. And Sargon was in the chat watching, and it was the part 2 back end of Destiny talking to Vosh again, for the other one, where he was lambasting them for not being good activists. And he made that point explicitly clear, because that is pretty much Destiny's like whole thing right now. It's literally holding people to their standards and making them understand how hypocritical they sound when they try to constantly bring out the same old tired arguments. And considering the person he's talking to is Vosh, the common Vosh argument in these situations always comes back to, it's okay when I do it, I get to decide, and if you don't like it, well, fuck you then. And that's pretty much what BreadTube arguments end up being, because for BreadTube, their form of blood sports is not what you would consider the 2014 form of blood sports.
I'm not saying it was.
We're not talking about, like, back and forth, they roast you, you roast them, and everybody's laughing, but at the end of the day, you can go to the pub, even if you disagree vehemently with each other's viewpoints. We're talking about the bullshit that was tried on me by Jake and Sarah, where they try to act friendly, and then, over time, they reveal themselves to be fucking snakes in the grass. That kind of blood sports, where they cut your microphone, and they lie about you. And then when you hold them accountable for their actions, they say, no, we're not the ones grifting. They're grifting. Attack them. That shit. There would be none of that here. First and foremost.
Well, yeah, it's I linked you in this in the chat. I may actually put it in the chat of the stream if it'll allow me to.
It should.
But there was a decent video I was watching on this exact subject, and it was in the context of this exact same debate between Vosh and Destiny, and it was about, basically he was describing exactly what you were describing here, with him holding his butt to the fire with hypocrisy. I recommend people watch it. It's actually a very interesting and deep dive, like 43 minutes, it's called Vosh and the Consequences of Consequentialism. By the Distributionists, and I really like his work. And actually, how I found him earlier this week, and I recommend it for people to watch. It's a very interesting deep dive into the, for lack of a better term, non-standards that Vosh has, or lack of standards, you could say.
There's a lot of things he lacks, like common fucking sense.
There's a lot of what?
There's a lot of things he fucking lacks, like common fucking sense. Looking at Vosh have an argument with people on the internet, even when he's in the right, is like me back in college, looking at people...
He has made so much money in this last year. Well, yeah, to interject about that, about Vosh in general, what I think of him, I think he's the modern... He's taken what Destiny, what he's learned, what he's done, and brought to Twitch, and it has essentially gone one step further, in my opinion. And over the reason people are sending him money, well, they have first off, the people who usually are communists are the ones that have the credit cards. They would not. They have plenty of money. That's why they're stupidly giving it to him. But I guess I kind of had a bit of an epiphany about Vosh in general and Destiny, especially when they started butting heads around the time of Kenosha. I remember watching a few clips of between Destiny and Vosh because this came on basically and was basically got him to admit that, like, so there was a black man. You should do the same thing as what you're suggesting for Kyle, which is to let the mob attack them. And it was clear at that point that I could tell Destiny was just a bit too moderate compared to Vosh. Vosh was far more leftist, and as a result, I wasn't surprised when I saw the same claim everyone's slaying at JonTron now coming home to roost at the manlet's feet. But like, I never thought I'd agree with Destiny, but here we are. We have someone worse than him, if you ask me.
Well,
that's my own.
Oh, but Johan's is 10 times worse in every capacity. Again, I've said this before. He wants to be the king, and the problem with him being the king ultimately comes to the point of his consequentialism. Because as long as the ends justify the means, he will literally justify anything. That's the problem.
That's communism in a nutshell.
Yes, but that's the problem. That's the problem, though. That's the problem, though. I don't think he's a communist. In rhetoric, yes, because rhetoric is all he has. But in practice,
I guess I implied a little too far there. Sorry.
Well, no, you're not wrong. It's not that he's not a communist. It's that he's a communist in rhetoric. In reality and in practice, this man is a hyper-capitalist. You know what the difference between? Do you know what the difference between a hyper-capitalist and a communist is?
Money.
No, it's the difference between Mark and Nicolas Maduro. It's the difference between a person who abhors the things that would be allowed that have to be done in order to institute it, and the difference between a dictator who can quite literally factorialize eating well-cooked steak lamb tips and receiving merchandise from a celebrity chef who has banged many women and impregnated many women. Salt Bae himself. While people in Venezuela fucking starve to death, and people in the street get gunned down while they wait for their 1-hour water rations.
Speaking of, there was, I hate to bring him back up again, but there was a very similar, the same guy who made that video of consequentialism was talking about another video I watched of his about atheism and about, I'm trying to remember the exact meaning of the acronym, but the acronym was HOMIE, and it was about human orthopological and moral innocence, or something. I forget the exact terms, but basically it was the idea that if you break everything, like break all the toys of a society and bring us back to basically the caveman days, we're not going to turn into Sodom and Gomorrah. No. It'll be a perfect utopia. And it was a very, very interesting discussion. But I mean, honestly, me saying this about communism is a given. But I remember when I was a kid, I remember hearing the phrase, communism looks great on paper, but in practice, well, you get the free helicopter rides and whatnot. And I felt like it was like a light switch, I guess. I don't know, just finding a name for this thing I've always seen that I saw as kind of a stupid thing, which is that everything would be great if we all just did this. It's like, well, then why has no one tried that yet?
There's lots of answers. That's actually one of the other things they were talking about at the beginning of the thing. We're going to move on from this subject, but I just want to cap it up because it's interesting to watch. It's interesting to watch because whenever you happen to go through it, Sitch and Adam actually tend to use the EFAP method for this. They will watch the entire fucking instance of whatever it is that they're reviewing in full context, beginning to end, and they will pick over it, and they will deliberate over it, and they will go through it. And most of the time, the easiest method, and it's why I use this method so much, it's why I prefer to try and do the podcast longer, is that when you actually spend more time to focus on a subject and you actually scrutinize it, you begin to reveal exactly what the fuck is the problem. Because most of the problem that you could really describe with, well, society in general right now, unironically, and I'm air quoting that really hard, society. The biggest problem is that people don't fucking people don't read. People literally don't fucking read. Then all the Nigels just don't read, man. And it's always the same answer every single fucking time. They don't read, they don't learn, they don't know anything. And when they get corrected, they say, "No, wait, I did know that. I totally knew that." Which kind of brings
It's amazing how accurate that statement is.
It kind of brings us to several things that happened this week.
Okay.
The first thing to go over, I have it in front of me. The first thing to go over is probably what happened towards the middle of the week. I forget, the days are blending together. But first thing on the fucking docket, the Jezebel article. Who forgot to invite Chun-Li to the Mortal Kombat?
I've been waiting for this one.
So there was a new trailer put out for a new cut of Mortal Kombat. I'm assuming 2021. It's coming out in a few weeks. It's not bad.
It actually looks really damn good. I was really impressed. I'm like, wow.
I mean, honestly, I've seen both the original Mortal Kombat and Annihilation, and like those are. It's like, how do I describe this? It's like the era differentiation between Midway and then the switch over to like this half and half WB and Ed Boon influence of Midway, and then finally it's all NetherRealm and WB like. The old two films were like the Midway version of Mortal Kombat. You know, the goofy ass color changed costumes and the fucking leotard for Sindel and all of the 90s movie tropes that go along with it, and your fucking Christopher Lambert Raiden, the fucking Goro CGI, all of that and more.
He was a puppet.
Oh, he was a puppet? I thought he was CGI.
Yeah. No, he was animatronic. If you're thinking of the sequel had way too much CGI in it.
No,
but I think Reptile was CG.
Yes, Reptile was CG.
I will before we move on to the Jezebel part, I will ask, because this is something that my gold standard, at least up until the Legacy series that followed it, was Mortal Kombat Rebirth. I don't know if you've ever seen that pitch video that eventually led to Mortal Kombat, I think Legacy. You know what I'm talking about with the it was the hyper realistic, ultra violent version. It started out as like an 8-minute pitch video that reimagined a lot of characters as like hyper realistic. Like Baraka was like basically a plastic surgeon that turned a knife on himself. Reptile had like a real actual disease, skin disease, and Legacy butchered it. Like it got midway through, there was like the Raiden episode was really good. It kind of basically had this really interesting concept of, if you were a god of thunder trapped in a world where no one everyone thinks you're crazy, like you zap down the middle of an insane asylum, what happens? And it was a great concept because you're not really sure is he really a god or what? And it's great. But point is, long story short, I'm curious. Well, personally, I don't know if you've seen it, but personally, this does a better job balancing the mystic and the realistic. And I think it's very much NetherRealm inspired, which is, if you're a Fourth Snake fan like I am, be a good thing or it could be a bad thing. But I personally was really impressed. But anyway.
I'm trying to remember. Are you talking about the Machinima project that had Dan Southworth in it?
That was the sequel series, Machinima series, yes. But there was a pilot that had a very the theme, the tone of Rebirth was very real, hyper realistic, like Batman Begins or Batman Dark Knight kind of thing, where they take the zany stuff out or like try and make a way of explaining it. And like 3 episodes in after the Johnny Cage episode in Legacy, I think there's like there's 2 episodes of Jax and Kano and all that, and the next one after Johnny Cage is like Katana and Melina, and it just throws everything out the window.
I remember, and then like faintly, and
yeah. Point is, like that's like Dark Knight. This is kind of, I hate to use Batman v Superman as a comparison, but that's all I have. If the first 2 movies are Schumacher, this and Rebirth was kind of a grim and gritty Nolan, this is more Batman v Superman, where the things are a little more balanced, I guess. But anyway, that's periphery.
Mm-hmm. I dropped the link for everybody to read along, so you can see this with your own fucking eyes.
Yes.
Archived, of course. Whenever you send us any news links or any news tips or any story tips, please make sure you archive them first. I'm not giving these motherfuckers clicks. You shouldn't give them clicks either.
That's something I've learned from Styx.
We've got To Invite Chun-Li to Mortal Kombat, written by Shannon Metro. Oh, no, Shannon Mellero. Cinema's back, baby, and in a big way! Exclamation point. Forget the auteur films of award season where two people stand at the edge of a cliff somewhere in Great Britain pining for each other but never finding. Oh my god, words. Never...
Yes, Dad, big words, this stupid article.
No, just too many goddamn words to talk about a goddamn movie. Forget the auteur films of war season where two people stand at the edge of a cliff somewhere in Great Britain pining for each other but never finding a way to make their relationship work. There's a new Mortal Kombat hitting HBO Max and life is fucking good. Because you're consumers. Scorsese is shaking at his oversized spectacles. Oh my god, keep coping. Probably for the 15th time. The trailer for the latest film version that brings to life the gore of the original video game. The trailer itself is worthy of at least 2 Oscars for special effects and stunt coordination. Specifically for the preview of a scene where Sub-Zero turns his enemy's blood into a knife. What?
That was the moment for me. Personally, like, that was the cool part. But that's... Anyway.
On one part, there is some point of that, because it was shown with a Ran trailer, which means there will be gratuitous violence. So, which is good.
Oh, yeah.
It's Mortal Kombat. There should be gratuitous violence. So that's off to a good start. That was put out by the MK Movie account. But being the astute film critic that I am immediately clocked a glaring error in the film. Where in all the realms is Chun-Li? If there's a battle for the fate of Earth, then we all need... Don't we need all of... I'm sorry. I have horrible fucking dyslexia, people. Don't we need all of the greatest warriors gathered, which would include Chun-Li and her spinning bird kick that could knock a man's head clean off? Sounds like a pretty played plot hole to me that the ultimate street fight is supposed to be won by a ragtag team held by Sonya Blade. No offense to the Sonya stans. She's white. That's why she's upset. Writers are putting Stan in articles about.
They also use the ultimate street fight. That's something I wanted to note.
It's pain. It's pain, dude.
Yes. All pain.
Absence of Chun-Li aside, the trailer is the dog's bollocks, a term I learned from watching The Bridge, also on HBO Max if you're into competition shows. Consuming!
Yep.
And the extremely bloody action-packed film, which is a super realistic study on the cross-section of Kung Fu and elemental magic, will premiere on April 16th. Choose your fighter wisely. Update at 4:39 p.m. Jezebel has discovered the answer to our question about Chun-Li's erasure, and it is that Chun-Li is not a part of the Mortal Kombat Megaverse. Wow!
It's almost like you can't do your fucking job.
I mean, the first question I have is number 1. How were you given... Why are you writing... Well, actually, no. That's like 3 questions in one. Number 1. You were writing a fluff piece about Mortal Kombat, and you didn't Google Mortal Kombat to look up characters so that you could write a proper fluff piece. Number 2, Jezebel, the feminist website that has been going from militant feminism to pop feminism in like 10 years of time, has now arrived at the point where I wasn't sure if this article was satire or not. And number 3, after finding out that it was not satire, they had the audacity, the fucking sheer chutzpah, to not just fucking delete this shit and pretend it didn't exist.
As Real Clownfish TV put it, they're so desperate, or at least in my opinion, my read is, they're so desperate for clicks that they're going to basically say, yeah, we were only pretending to be retarded. They need the clicks. They need the hate clicks. That's my read. The update is the smoking gun in my mind.
I mean, My whole entire thing is that whoever gave them this story, you need to take them off of writing anything about pop culture again, because clearly they don't know how to do anything. And more importantly, if this is supposed to be one of those her eyes pretending moments, it kind of is hard for you to...
I'm sure...
It's kind of hard for them to pretend, because it's like, how the fuck do you get that wrong? Because, like, that's what they were doing. It's like, oh my god, the men are in my menchies. And it's like, no, you're just fucking stupid. Just stupid.
Yeah.
Moving on from that. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'll be brief if I can. My whole read on this, again, is, as I said, she made a mistake. She jumped the gun, like, how dare is there a white person? There's also Melina in there, which I love how she completely didn't notice that.
Yes.
Who's and this is black somehow. And from some art, looks like a midget, but that's just me.
No, I think the actress in question is short, but a lot of people actually did notice that. And do you know what they said about it? Absolutely fucking nothing, because nobody cared about the blackness of her.
Well, yeah, but she's Asian, so it's... Well, anyway, I mean...
True, the character is Asian, but at the same time, that's
she's
probably...
also a dark clone.
That...
I'm just saying, I mean...
You're not wrong. But at the same time, that's the thing about this particular news story that stands out amongst all of the other fucking parts of the news story, especially concerning that entire topic in itself. There were so many things in there that people could have gotten annoyed by. The idea that Sub-Zero is doing, blood magic shit. Granted, freezing blood, making blood daggers, but doing blood magic shit.
It's kind of similar to Scarlet, yeah.
It's an alternate reality where somehow Sub-Zero's the one that shattered Jax's arms and not Ermac. Black Melina. Not a very Johnny Cage looking Johnny Cage.
Yeah.
And I don't even fucking know. I don't even fucking know how they fucked up Liu Kang and Kung Lao, but they kind of got them looking pretty fucking scuffed. Like the version they had for the 90s variation, that was a Liu Kang. I don't know how the fuck you fucked that up. Cause yes, he's wearing the more modernized MK, I want to say 9 and 10 and I guess 11 variation of the outfit, rather than the old Midway complete stretcher yin-yang pants with the no-top shirt and the six-pack. They're doing the other version, which, if that's what they're going for with the costuming, that's not my complaint. My problem is that the facial expressions are looking pretty fucking scuffed. Cause that's probably outside of the casting for fucking Raiden, the 90s one. Almost every single actor that was part of that project, even including Nighthawk and characters like that. And I guess you could say when he had the mask on, their actor for Shao Kahn, all of them pitch perfect. They look like the character. They are able to act like the corny ass version of the character. Not a real complaint. In this version, it's just, so far, a couple of characters are looking fucking scuffed. But Sub-Zero looks good, Scorpion looks good, pre-Scorpion Hanzo looks fine. It's probably going to be an entertaining film, and it's going to go down as something that's going to be really fun for people to watch, because people are going to kick the shit at them about that in videos, and I can't wait to see it, because it's going to happen, if it hasn't happened already.
Four Snakes writing up a script as we speak, I'm sure.
I mean, there's a couple of people who already made their pre-takes trailers about it, but that's a whole thing. Moving on to the next story. Cartoon Network did it again. They made another fucking...
Yes.
They made another fucking ad. It's really...
They had to complete the trilogy, dude. I saw it coming. They already did Pearl. They got it before that. They had to do Amethyst. As stupid as it sounds, I knew it was coming.
It's just really fucking bad. All of them are bad. Let's recap what brings us here. I threw a link of it in the chat for everybody.
Yes.
Let's recap what brought us here. The first one is Gauntlet, telling you kids, don't be racist. And it went on to lecture you about, hey guys, love is love, so don't be racist. Right?
Wait, what?
Yes, that was the first one. It was literally, yeah.
No, I know. The disconnect is so vivid when you say it like that.
It's weird because it starts out as like a commercial in a commercial. And even before these,
they did that again.
Even before these particular PSAs, there was the Dove commercial, right? The ones that were running when the show was still on air, but it was like transitioning from the interim period between Steven Universe the movie to Steven Universe Future. The one that had Connie and the Gems and Steven in it. Those ones, like, that's whatever. Okay, you're selling soap to kids. Cool. Defy, kids. Be yourself. Be luxurious with moisturized skin. But then your next one is, hey kids, we're gonna learn about Black history. Did you know that Latice Latimer invented the light bulb? Because inventing the light bulb,
he didn't,
is improving the filament in the bulb and calling that a Black achievement. Black excellence. Stealing things from other white people. That was fucking pants on head.
Because it's Ford. Or that.
Well, no, it's pants on fucking head stupid. Like, you're making these, because this one was during February. These last two are during February. This is supposed to get you to watch the show, guys. A show that's been off air now for at least a year. You need to give achievements to the Black race by taking inventions from people that we didn't make, the royal we, that we didn't make, and take it from them to give to us, because you see, we just gotta celebrate. Don't you know? It doesn't matter if it's not true. Just say it anyways. The kids won't tell the difference. They're not learning in school.
I mean, they're probably learning better than what these people are claiming.
It's insulting in all the ways a person can imagine, because if you actually know actual Black history, right, one of the better ones that could be done was the woman
Carver.
There's like several Black inventors, but there was one specifically that a fucking dumbass checkmark tried to project as being the inventor of 3D television, right? Like, okay. I can't remember his name. I remember that. I can't remember the name of the person, but the woman in question did not invent 3D television. What she actually did was that she stood on the shoulders of the dude who created the spectroscopic effect necessary for 3D films, and she made it possible to perfect that technique, that then someone else stood on her shoulders and, perfecting her technique, invented MRIs, and then perfected the methods for high-definition flat screens. So if you wanted to say, hey guys, the Black excellence of this... What? Yeah, that's what that woman did. I can't remember the woman's name, and I don't have the tweet in front of me, because I didn't remember to save it. But that woman, you can probably look it up on Google through Wikipedia if you put in exactly what I just said, which is the method of MRIs. But she invented and perfected the methods for that by coming up with methods of making it more effective and more efficient, to the point that it enabled MRIs to exist. That's an actual achievement of Black excellence. And yet, these motherfuckers didn't acknowledge that. In fact, people got mad that I told them, no, we don't do that. And the reason why you don't do that is for the very same reason that I have the greatest fucking salt to throw at the third fucking commercial. Because when you take...
I'm sorry, insert one small feat.
Yeah.
If you ever get a chance, when I was a kid, I remember that I posted this when the second commercial came out. When Robin Williams does a better job at explaining to kids about true achievements for these kind of things with George Washington Carver, does a better job in 1990 whatever than you did now. That's saying something, because he did, like, I remember that video to this day, and I pulled it up because I'm like, this is an amazing it was a great minds think for themselves on George Washington Carver. Anyway, going ahead.
I mean, there's a reason we call them regressives. But the reason I have the greatest fucking gripe to begin with the second one is that the second one sets up the alley-oop for the third one, and is the reason why it's the most insulting of all.
Okay.
Ignoring that it's happening in February. The reason you don't take people's achievements to give to yourself is that when you don't know your own history, and you literally ignore things when they're not convenient for you to get away with lying about your achievements, to then turn around and do the most insulting thing you can do, which is to tell the kids, hey kids, remember how we said don't be racist? In fact, you need to be so not racist, you're anti-racist. The problem with anti-racism, the way that I explained it, is that the middle is not being racist, neutral. On the left of this, pun not intended, you have racism. Out and about, undogged, mask off, we gonna set a cross on his lawn tonight and light it on fire, racism. On the far other end, you have critical race theory, which is another way of saying hyper-racism.
Mahorsh theory. It's the same. It's on the other end, but it's technically on doing the exact same thing, just going the opposite direction. You arrive at the same spot.
Yes, because the problem with the fucking anti-racism of saying, when you see color and the history that comes with it, you can recognize the role racism plays in our culture and appreciate everyone's diversity. The Crystal Gems see be anti-racist. That doesn't make any fucking sense. Because the entire point of the phrasing and terminology and the context of seeing color literally means to be racist. And I'm not talking about your unabashed about racism, I mean the actual meaning of the word racism. Making predeterminations and decisions based on the physical determination of the color of the skin. Technically, it's on anything that you could use to separate someone from yourself in the in-group to the out-group from the other.
And that's the problem.
Yes.
Because
that's the problem.
I mean, I'll just say it briefly, my whole spiel on this.
Go ahead.
If I wasn't the outrage du jour of people saying don't say the R word, or, retard, if I wasn't that person, they would hate me because I'm white, but because I wasn't, I was the person to stand up for, they got to tell me, oh, you don't say the R word. I'm like, hell no, you don't speak for me. Shut the fuck up, retard. No, I try to go about it the way a great man once said, not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I think that's, as I say, I just like people. And I judge you as a person, not as any predetermined. I don't like pigeonholing. And that's what I felt in high school and in school and everything was pigeonholing. They were upset that I wasn't fitting in that square hole. And so teachers hated me, certain teachers. And it's the same here. They want to pigeonhole people because, as Tim Pool found out at Occupy Wall Street, if you're mixed race, well, where do you fit? I mean, he was already part Asian, and that's what I call Schrodinger's person of color. You're only a person of color if it benefits the white person who's trying to pigeonhole you.
Yes, because because the woke millennial that studies critical race theory while with a minor in dance is always going to cover the mouth of
sociology.
No, sometimes it's just dance. Just critical race theory with a minor in dance. They will rush to cover the mouth of people like me and you whenever we say that we don't agree with this for the very same reason of saying, hey, we're gonna exclude people in the out group and call them nasty fucking words, but we love everyone's diversity. That it doesn't
unless you disagree with us, then we're gonna call you the C word or whatever,
It doesn't fucking work because the problem is, number one, by putting people on the out group, because of whatever determination you make, you are demonstrating that you are being a bigot. That is literally being a bigot. And then number two,
Yes.
it doesn't work when you then attach it to appreciating diversity. In order to appreciate diversity, you have to recognize, respect, and appreciate the differences in people. And it's ultimately a cultural problem when you don't understand that. Especially if the context you run to is, you need to treat black people like they're human beings, don't you know? As though nobody did that before. Yet at the same time, you trying to jump into a culture that you don't understand because you haven't lived that culture, and you also don't live that reality, so you don't actually see what people like me would see growing up or in our personal lives, but you see this hyper-realistic or this completely taken apart version of what you think is art, is culture, when it doesn't reflect well. It's like looking at a kaleidoscope. You say you understand what the black life is, or the Asian life, or the Mediterranean life, or the specific islander life if you live in Hawaii, or more specifically the Southeastern Asian continent, or just general Eurasian Oriental. That's a fun word. Oriental life. German life. Italian life. French life. North Korean life. South Korean life. You can...
What life in North Korea?
Well, other than the life of the maggots that are in your bowels as you try to swim across the demilitarized zone to make it to freedom. When you try to make determinations about people's lives and you have no context to what that actually means, you look like a white male and female liberal that tries to say, "Yes, I stand with you, fellow black person. We together shall weather the storm." And you look over them and you're like, "Bitch, if you don't get your motherfucking hands off my goddamn shoulder," because there's no fucking way. You just can't. Because in order for you to get it, you'd have to look at them as people. And you can't look at them as people if you're being hyper-racist to try to be anti-racist. In order to truthfully be anti-racist, you have to be against any form of singling any person out and putting them in a box. Because once you put them in a box, you have already failed your goal. And you just end up becoming a snake devouring your tail. And I know, some of these people love the idea of the Ouroboros, especially when a lot of these people end up being progressives, but it doesn't help you, because being colorblind is the way to achieve it. But they don't want to do that, because being racist makes them money. Like this ad for Cartoon Network, despite the fact that you're still losing viewership, losing even more of it, increasingly, as you continue to spotlight shows that shouldn't be made, like the fucking project that they just put out for fucking, Aquaman. You know the one I'm talking about.
Aquaman's glove, yes.
It
has the same shredder, Vicky the Man Bun.
We figured out where all those people who got fired from Thundercats War went to.
Yeah.
Fucking mirror, unibrow, and all.
Yeah.
Those things, it's not making them money. And so you guys decide, hey, what kind of really good franchise do we have that we can make ads with? Do you pick things for Foster's? No. Do you pick things for Samurai Jack? No. Do you use your idea that you've now basically dumpstered, I guess, of CN City? No. Do you use anything that has anything to do with any of your shows to try and get people to watch your network? No. You choose the very obviously made for adults kids cartoon to try and tell kids something that they don't even have the ability to grasp yet, because the show itself couldn't even get its point across. And you think you can do better in an ad. They think they can do better in an ad. Oh, it had a point. It had a point of saying, wow, they're literally me.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. That's a fair point. Fair explanation. I will say this though. I will add one last thing to this. You mentioned the Ouroboros, and it's so funny. I've had this idea in the back of my mind for a while now, and I was half tempted to abandon it. And I think you bringing that up again has helped.
Well,
needs to be activated into a script. Thank you.
okay. Okay.
Because you know who Loki's son is, right? The World Serpent.
Yes.
And what does the World Serpent do?
It eats things.
Eats his own tail. So what happens when he decides a more efficient way of eating his own tail is to be a feminist?
Well, you see.
And there you have it.
Well, you see, time is a perfect circle, and so is the circle of how many male feminists are sexual predators.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't that weird? It's like Reset the Clock is a real thing or something. Who knew? That and Smash Brothers Professionals.
Moving on to
You
the
laugh
next
because
one.
you know it's true.
I know it's true. Nairo just settled the settlement where he had to confirm that he raped a person. And there were people who were upset and mad that I told them you should already known this shit. Because people had the audacity to pretend that it was people had the audacity to pretend that it was a weird joke for somebody to say, "Wow, I can't wait to figure out how many people you groomed," because people were being fucking hyper negative, super duper sex negative. And there was somebody who had the audacity to say, "Nairo we don't even know if he did it." Boy, I hope that fucking person fucking looked at that thread. I hope they did. I hope you ate shit, because you should feel bad. You were wrong, and you were always going to be wrong, and you should feel wrong about it.
Your opinion is bad, and you should feel bad.
Anyways, moving on to the next thing.
Yes. Next thing.
Article from fucking Metro. White men are being replaced in classical paintings with black women. Written by Miranda Larby on fucking Wednesday. An artist is replacing the white men in classical paintings with black women in order to address the lack of representation of women in colorface. That's a sentence.
What? Like, that's sentence, yes, indeed. Thoughts exactly.
Harmonia Rosales, 33, lives and works in Chicago, and her latest work, an incredible modern-day reworking of Michelangelo's The Creation of Adam, is going viral. I wanted to take a significant painting, a widely recognized painting that subconsciously or consciously conditions us to see white male figures as powerful and authoritative, and flip the script, establish a counter-narrative, she tells BuzzFeed. White figures are...
Is she white?
I'm going to go ahead and assume no, but give me a second.
Okay.
I can find out.
Fair. Continue. Sorry. Didn't mean to derail you. Shit, I guess I did. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to...
It says they are Afro-Cuban, and they look like...
You can look into it after. Whatever.
It doesn't take me that long. It says the woman is Afro-Cuban, and she looks like she could be Selena's cousin. Hold on, I'll show you.
That sounds about right. Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah. That was an apt description, actually. That was spot on. Thank you. Selena's cousin. Yeah, I can see that. I can totally see that. That's perfect. Anyway.
White figures are staples in classical... are a staple in classical art. I wonder why. Featured in major museums. They are the masters of the masterpiece. Why should that continue? First off, what? Huh? Who?
Why should that continue? It hasn't continued. They're classics.
I mean, yes, but the first thing is, white figures are a staple in classical art. Stop. Yes. You know why they're a staple in classical art? Because the people, by your own words, lefties, is that these people were what you would call white, although we would call them English, Roman, Greek, Italian, French, and otherwise, and sometimes German, and sometimes Russian. And the reason, if you're going to go by classical, so I'm going to suppose we're going with English work, or ye old English work, like very, like...
You're doing a lot of assumptions
like
there. I know.
Like British. We're talking like Chaucer era. We're talking about medieval.
British.
British. You're talking British. You're talking early Gilded era. Yes, those classical art pieces from them are going to have white people in them because the people... And by the way, if we're just gonna be serious, let's not call white people, German people, French people, Italian people and British people, specifically white, as well at the same time saying that Scottish aren't white, Irish aren't white. You know, all the people who have
They're not the real people to these people. You know that.
All the people who have alabaster skin color. Let's not just throw them away and call them white when a lot of them can also be Spaniards. Because there's a couple of fucking Spanish people in there that have made some pretty good classics. But white figures are a staple in classical art featured in major museums. They are the masters of they are the masters of masterpieces. Why should that continue? Stop. Because they're classics, and they are meant not to make you feel as though they are lording over you, but to give you a sense and a touch of the muse that inspired them. Now, there is an image here of her black retelling of the creation of Adam. I can describe it to you. It is a elderly black woman figure representing God in the cerebellum euphemism, surrounded by multitudes of hot black bodies, reaching out to a nude woman with natural...
Oh, wait, so God's not nude. Okay.
No.
I thought we were going to get a erotic fan dance kind of number out of this.
No. Reaching out to a nude black woman in the same poses, and that's it. It's literally race swap the classic art.
Could this be considered blackface?
Yes!
Okay, good. I was worried there for a sec.
By replacing white male figures with black female ones, she says that she hopes to empower women of color and to provide powerful representative images that will inspire black youth. Harmonious says that the idea of God being a black woman is perfectly logical. I'm not even gonna
I'll bite. How is it perfectly logical? Did she explain it?
Hold on. When you consider that hold on. Here's her explanation.
Okay.
When you consider that all human life came out of Africa, the Garden of Eden and all, that's not okay. No.
That's crossing the streams. You don't cross the streams.
There is so... I apologize for any Catholics not be listening right now. They are probably fucking throwing a fit. When you consider that all life came out of Africa, the Garden of Eden and all, and then it only makes sense to paint God as a black woman, sparking life into her own image. Okay, let's go along that line of questioning then.
Oh god.
Like, let's go along that line of questioning. Like, no, let's just go with this idea. God is a woman, and she's a black woman.
Mm-hmm.
Made life in her image. Why aren't we all black women?
I have a perfectly reasonable explanation for you, Carl. Because the white man is some sort of conspiratorial we was Kang's shit. I don't even know what the exact fucking conspiracy is, but you know what I'm talking about.
I mean, I would have said it's because the white man's the devil, but
No, they've taken it a step further. They called us like genetic mutations or something. I don't know.
Oh no, I know what you're talking about. They're talking about the Yakrub theory.
Okay, yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. But unfortunately, I'm not a Hotep, and I can get ass without having to be a Hotep, so they can cope.
You're not wrong there.
But there's so much of that that's just fucking wrong. Because if just roll back up there, by replacing white male figures with black female ones, she said that she's hoping to empower women of color and provide powerful representative images that will inspire black youth. Here's an idea. Make your own art of your own concepts, of your own inspirations, of shit based in idea of classics. It's easy.
That's hard. That's too hard. It requires creativity.
Here's a perfect example. Take an art style of the time, chiaroscuro. Make an art piece of black people using chiaroscuro. You can have a little kid holding a flame and then have like multiple people behind them in the room with their faces illuminated in the darkness to show that black people I could hold it in. To show that black people are treated as though they aren't there, but when you shine a light on us, we can glow bright.
Like I said, that takes artistic integrity or artistic competence. That's hard. Carl, I have to ask you: will an original piece get that kind of love, or will a clickbaity style piece actually get attention?
Well, I actually have an answer for that. Realistic.
Oh, really?
Yes. There have been people who have had successful art careers. I can't remember any of the fucking people, but they're all people that have had their pieces featured at MoMA. There are very successful, both street and professional artists that have gone the route of making their own original works, that have been recognized for their original works, and have gotten more press time making original shit that people could yas queen over, and it was based in the most wholesome shit possible. Truthfully, the Lana Del Rey's of the art world, where they didn't do it specifically to shit on some other demographic. They just did it, and people saw it, and they're like, yeah, this is my art. I hope you like it. And people yas-queened all over it, and they didn't necessarily want them to do it, but they also didn't stop them from doing it, and they never said a single goddamn blessed thing about people in general. You could probably find a couple of them out there. Because, like, there are some real Banksy types that are like that. And they got more notoriety than any of the free-bleeding type of feminist articles writing about art pieces. Like, bar fucking none. A metric of 5 to 1.
I hate to be that guy, but I am going to bring a counter argument to this.
Yes.
You and me, I'm sure people know how much I gush over her. Because it's pretty obvious. But Miss Rainbow Squid Ink on Twitter had a quite opposite reaction. Quite a funny story. I won't be able to do it justice because I'm going to be recalling it from memory.
Okay.
But from what I remember, she put up this art at this local venue. And essentially, someone was like, who drew this woman in such stereotypical whatever? Blah, blah, blah. This is like, I guess, a black teacher there or something. And then, like, Squid comes out and says, actually, that was me. And as soon as it's flipped, as soon as she realized who had done the painting, it was like this beautiful, sisters in arms. And she's like, don't touch me. I mean, you're not wrong. Okay, you're not wrong. There have been successes. In fact, I'm not going to speak for her, but I'd wager a good chunk of them probably were things that inspired her. I know I personally have always been inspired by Dwayne McDuffie's work. But just to keep it simple, they don't get half as many clicks. I know what you're saying about press exposure, but how many times have they retweeted versus this lady? I mean, we're just talking about this right now, just pointing out how stupid it is. I mean, I'm just gonna say that. Anyway,
that's okay.
Enough from me here.
That's okay, man.
I'm trying to keep myself restrained and not be too loud and boisterous and blah blah blah. You know, I talk too long. You know that.
It is perfectly fine, my dude. The next part of this is probably the part that actually justifies the top part of this article, because remember, they're doing this to encourage women of color. Her work also focuses on painting black women as a tool for helping her daughter come to terms with her own ethnic identity. Remember how I said she looks like Selena's cousin?
Oh no.
Yeah.
What's her daughter?
You know what her daughter is.
Half white.
She paid the toll.
Forgive me, that term does not have any meaning to me. What is speak at me like I'm a virgin, because
burn the coal, pay the toll. Burn the coal, pay the toll.
So she's
a coal burner.
He is half.
She's a coal burner.
I don't know that term, Carl. Speak English, please.
She likes some dark chocolate.
Okay, but she's half what?
Half Cuban.
So, okay. Okay. That all now it all makes sense. I'm sorry. So basically, she's guilty, and she's like, I got to do this for her, even though she probably didn't ask for it.
I mean, there are plenty of feminists that have done things explicitly because, hey, I am super into this thing that I love. Let me show you how much I love it. Let me do my performative dance of how much I love black dick. And also,
Karen, I just want to play Fortnite. You ever seen that picture?
Yes.
Of that feminist exposing herself to a bunch of Russian kids.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Oh fucking Christ!
It's like, why are these feminists? Why are kids? Why is this generation becoming more whatever? And it's like this also feminists. It's this old lady showing her bare chested snatch and bullshit to this. Yeah. I stopped myself. I'm going to ramble there for a minute if I don't stop myself.
But now that I've read that sentence, what do you think it's more likely? Do you think it's that she's doing it because she'd like to encourage other women of color and of also like multicolor, bicolor, the one drop theorem color of races? Or do you think it's more likely that she's doing it because she knows that her daughter is going to be mixed and that she wants her daughter to identify with something, if not anything? So she just chose to say that, but at the same time, it's also kind of that too.
Oh yeah, it's. I wonder. It's so hard. Maybe if she was a little more blatant about it, I might be able to figure it out. I mean, who knows?
I mean, I'm cutting jokes about it, but like, I don't care that she's part race. Or that she's half a race and half another race, or part this or part that. I don't care about that.
How dare you, Carl?
I just find it fucking curious that it always somehow comes back to, yes, now let me, the progressive, talk about how much I love the black race. And then the first thing that comes out of their mouth is that they will start talking intimately about how primordial, how strong, how bestial they are. As if it's not obvious who they're talking about.
I thought the first thing that came out of her mouth was whoever that guy was, his dick. But I thought you were going to say that.
No, see, that's usually the white feminists that do that. The ones who get up there and say, don't open your mouth. Don't open your mouth for black dick if you can't open your mouth for black issues. That's white women. That's specifically a white female trait.
It is. See, Lord knows I'm. Yeah.
See, Latino women, they do indeed love themselves the black man, but they don't. They slap the shit out of us. Like on the tier of people who are willing to accept our bullshit, but have really, really strong love. It goes black women, Latino women, trailer park women, urban city women, white women. Actually, no. Restructure that. White women kind of goes like underneath black, but it's kind of like an asterisk position. They have to have a certain kind of background, otherwise pushovers. But anyways, moving on. I want my daughter to grow up proud of her curls and coils. Try to say that 10 times fast.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious what she's all about.
Her brown skin, and for her to identify as a woman of color, a woman of value. A woman of value, she says. What I do with my art contributes to the way that she and all other little girls like her will come to recognize themselves, and that's the end of the article. And there's exactly one comment on this. I am a woman of color, an artist, and a Christian, and I just saw that crucifixion painting, and all I can say is, wow! The subject matter, the simplicity, the colors. Everything about it is perfection. I hope to see more of this artist's work! !
One comment. That's all you need to hear. That's all you need to say. It's like one comment.
As a whole, there's several things not good about an article like this. Number one, if your view of empowering people is to race swap entire pieces of classic literature, classic art, classic thought, theorem, practice, science. This goes right in the same line as the fucking Steven Universe advertisements. It's not endearing and showing that, hey guys, our race can be good too. In fact, let me find a way to blackify Bahubali. That's not how you do that, okay? Never in my mind, even though it would probably make a fucking killing if you could find a way to do that, never would I ever suggest that we should take the Punjabi classic of Bahubali, the beginning and the conclusion, and say, yes, now let's bring this over to the West and make a remake of this. Never would I ever suggest that. And yet, that is almost exactly what's happened here, and what usually happens when it comes to ideas of art and inspiration. And
You ain't wrong, because all I can think of right now as you're saying this is it ain't just limited to white things that they're bringing over. I mean, have you heard? Can you imagine what they're gonna do to Icon?
yeah,
To Dwayne McDuffie's baby. Said the wrong. Slurred my words there. I can't even begin to want to even imagine what they're gonna do to Icon. I'm sorry. This is something that's gonna get me angry, because I fucking love that man. I love that man. I was just reflecting on this today. I remember where I was when I heard he died, because he was one of the kindest and gentlest giants I've ever seen, Mr. McDuffie, on Facebook. And we need him. I mean, Man of Action basically fell apart after he left, because now we have Ben 10 looking as bad as it is. Don't get me started. I'm done. I'm not going to say anything more. So I'm going to rant. I'm going to scream.
It's okay, buddy. It's okay. Moving on to the next story. This one is a personal favorite of mine. Raise your hand if you in the audience were there or were aware of when I pulled the fucking piece of the soul of the story editor of Snopes all the way out of his body and mocked him for 3 hours straight after he tried to debunk obvious fucking bait that, by the way, some of y'all motherfuckers nearly goddamn ruined. You almost took that opportunity away from me, but it's okay. I salvaged it. And basically...
Is this... Oh, sorry.
And I basically roasted his entire fucking career, and then a week later, he made it very clear that he was going to do what he was fucking told to do. Okay, now you may speak.
Is this founder? Is this one of the founders?
What do you mean?
Or is this the guy who founded it, broke up with his wife, and then dated, and then married a fucking, what's the word? A fucking hooker.
Are you talking?
Is this the owner?
Are you talking about David Emery?
Did he found it with his wife and then broke up and then married some
know.
red-haired hooker?
I don't know.
If it's the founder, then that's all I'm asking. Is it one of the guys who founded it, or is it? Okay, guess you don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if David Emery founded it. I know that he's a story editor for Snopes, and he got really fucking mad when I started laughing in his face, because this man immediately replied as I started mocking the shit out of him. That was the most important.
God, here we go.
That was the most important thing. That was part of this, because this was after the election. Because, as people should have been aware, the media has gone all the way the fuck back to sleep and are pumping out fluff piece after fluff piece after fluff piece about the president and any of his things and supporting any of his policies.
You said David Mickelson, right?
No, David Emery.
Damn it! Okay. Continue.
Because the news has gone back to sleep, and they're more focused on softballing the president and any questions that could ever be asked, but most people are still doing their job journalistically. People like David Emery have one simple job, and that's basically watch the news feed and immediately become political spin doctors. Because that's realistically all fact-checking is when it's done by any kind of media organization like PolitiFacts or Snopes. They're not telling you the actual truth. Like, for example, the story in question that he actually got roasted over after I roasted him about 1350. Y'all know how the meme goes. He made an explicit
Yes.
point in October of 2020 to try to tell people. No, I think it was actually 2019. I can't remember exactly, but it was in October. No, I think it was 2020. In October, of something that I explicitly made as bait to see how many people would react to it and see how far it would go. But
it's like the word despite. Despite is in of itself a meme.
But after I made that bait, I followed it up with the actual articles which the bait itself was based on, which was from multiple reputable sources in his field, his sister publications written by his personal friends that he works with on a regular basis, writing all about the idea of actually what 1350 is. Because realistically speaking, it's actually not 1350. It's actually 52, like 15. It's weird how those numbers work, but it was from places like the ADF, from places like SPLC, all of the normal political grifters and hucksters that make these fucking pieces, right? I bring this to his face, and he got fucking ass mad about it. Unbelievably ass mad. To the point he was coping and trying to, try to single me out in this way, and I told him to his face that you are never going to win. And every single time you reply to people like this, you're just proving my point. Because you don't tell the news. You are told what you're allowed to cover, and you fucking go along with it like the fucking easy lemon you are. And unfortunately, earlier in the week, or rather, I guess, on Friday-ish, if not Thursday, I think it was the night of Friday into the morning of, or the night of Thursday into the morning of Friday, the doctored tweet of Ted Cruz, while Ted Cruz was being antagonized for having gone on a vacation trip to Cancun, while Texas was being hit with that fucking polar center, which, by the way, I'm not condemning him for that. I can say that it's bad optics, because you are technically the senator for them, but at the same time, you don't control the energy grid, you don't have the ability to turn back the weather, you represent. Yes, he represents
federal.
them. Yes, he represents them in federal things. He has nothing to do with the state. He has no control over that. And also, if you had the ability to flee what was very, very serious, catastrophic weather conditions, you would have. There are people in Texas right now that still don't have power and are living off of fucking snow, melting in their bathtubs so that they have fucking water. Because their pipes burst. And yet at the same time, at the same moment, you have Sandy Cortez down there with people about this shit who's there nothing more than for a fucking photo op. She doesn't give a shit. Y'all don't give a shit.
How close do you think it's going to be to her crying in that parking lot? They could have just photoshopped it, to be quite honest. Lord knows everyone else has.
I would say it'd be four Pinocchios out of 5. But the important part of this story is that when it became known that he had gone to Cancun, people started mocking him, right? So somebody created a fake tweet that said, "I'll believe in climate change when Florida freezes over." Something
that was fake.
Or Texas freezes over. Something along those lines.
It seemed too good to be true.
And all of the news outlets, all the publications, on Twitter, in the 22-hour news cycle on cable, all circulated this around as true. And they all had to pull it back and admit that they were lying. Because they got caught with their fucking pants down. And I laughed like a fucking madman when I saw this. I was laughing for 5 minutes straight until I turned on the camera so I could cut the skit. That's how hard I was fucking laughing. Because it's extremely funny. Because number one, I was right. And fuck you guys. Of course I was fucking right. But more importantly, it shows us how we're going to have to go forward and why it's so important that we archive things going forward.
Yes.
Because, number one, of course you should have fact-checked this. Let's put ourselves in their shoes, right? You're a journalist working for the Clinton News Network. You're a journalist working for The Hill. You're an op-ed writer for the New York Times and the Washington Post, or for fucking BuzzFeed, or Jubilee, and you see something that is the spiciest piece of copium that gives you all of the jubilation in the world to say, yes, it might suck. We might be getting butt fucked by Biden and getting none of the things that we said we would have wanted. Those checks are not flying off the shelf into our hands and are dwindling dollar by dollar every single moment. And we're more than likely about to go back to war in the Middle East. But at least no mean tweets. And this dumbass chud. But before you then get to your dumbass chud shit, y'all should have looked it up, figured out if it was true, and then gotten it in your hand, the way that I do to people, gotten it in your hand. This is a real tweet. We got his ass, boys. We got him in 32K. That shit should have been done before they ever broke this story, period. Should have been done. They didn't do that. So now they have egg in their face.
Do I even need to say the word? Do I even need to say the word Sandman?
I mean,
it goes without saying. Standing there menacingly. It's literally a SpongeBob meme.
I mean, this came right along with the news that our Kenosha kid is going to be free of all charges. Oh yeah, that man's been vindicated. Oh, this man's gonna be a multimillionaire. Another one, and Sandman's sweeping the courts too. Another one.
Yep.
Ultimately, the point of this, the point of this is the lesson, guys. Number one, archive everything you see. Number two, laugh in the face of these check marks. And number three, consistently grind your fucking heels in. Because they will do it to you, so you need to do it to them. Because their job is to cover the news. If they won't cover the news, you cover the news. It's easy. Anyone can do it. All you need is an internet connection and a cell phone. You can cut together.
I mean, I will chime in here, especially.
Go ahead.
In regards to this, digging your heels in, how I describe it, is what are they? If they can't argue, they can never argue with the truth. That's when the block comes. That's always when the block comes. When they can't. I have made freaking you a bow. Have nothing about tax returns, dumbass. Yeah, like Chicago was used in Dark Knight, Transformers, and now got tax rebates. And I'm like, yeah, but there's a difference between those films and yours, Bo. You Bo, Mr. Bo. They were profitable.
It went quiet there for a second. You cut your microphone out. But
I said there's a difference between those films and yours, Mr. Bo. Those were profitable. They also weren't the reason why production was moved to California or to Chicago or U.S. or to Illinois.
Hold on. I'm trying to get the next thing up.
They probably won the... Okay. Long story short, they cannot argue with the truth. And every time you point it out, when they start trying to squeal and everything, that's when you dig in deeper. Anyway, I'm sorry, I rambled again. Next thing.
You're okay. Next thing came from a check mark by the name of Tor. A surprisingly low number.
Time to go to bed.
A surprisingly low number of likes and quote tweets on this, despite it being a checkmark account. Supposedly, Young Daddy, the title of the account, is the new Black Minds Matter newsletter with an Instagram show, a connection, a podcast, and a Patreon, as well as being a book coach. The tweet in question: white people's overwhelming success in nearly every aspect of America is because the deck is stacked in their favor by white privilege. White people aren't inherently better. Whiteness is inherently advantageous. To doubt this is just cringeworthy obtuseness.
Oh God, where do we even start? This is delicious.
This kind of goes along in hand with something that Madonna said at the same time this week, namely that I can't remember from my brain without looking at my tweet. Hold on, I can go find it. This was a funny thing that I wrote down, because when I saw it, I immediately made a skit for it. But essentially, it goes to, I am being oppressed by patriarchy. We have to kill the patriarchy because they will abuse me. That was the gist. Let me go look at the exact words. Because boy, oh boy howdy, that is.
I mean, do I need to point at the meme?
I mean, I'm not really sure there is a meme there. It's just cringe and it's worrying.
Carl?
All around? Yeah. Yes.
Okay, no, you cut out there, that's all.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm scrolling through Twitter, so it probably keeps lagging a bit. But it took me a second to go find it. Is it in here somewhere?
Wrong in my life is because of patriarchy, of children's book about avoiding reality. I mean, that's literally why I made the meme. Entirely why. Let's see if I can find it while you're looking for your thing.
I found it.
Okay.
What did you send me here?
Oh, these pictures?
Yes.
That's his wife. That's his wife. And I got increasingly more NSFW.
What am I?
The first one is what happens when you click on David Nicholson. One of the things that searches with it is his wife. That's the first picture on Google. The second one was via Google image search of her post on Facebook showing that she is quite the escort. The third image is from a naughty site featuring an ex and a certain type of rodent pet. So, yeah. In case you're interested, I just found that's why I was hoping it was him so I could laugh about that little factoid of things. Notice they've been together since 2016, and Nicholson founded the website with his wife. Explains a lot, don't it? Anyway.
I'm going to have to rub salt and vinegar and bleach my eyes later. Ooh.
Yeah, she's a redhead.
Oh boy. Anyways.
And pale. Anyway.
This thing goes right up with what Madonna put out on the 19th. The 19th. Damn. Patriarchy continues to try and crush my neck with their heavy boots, cut off my life force, and take away my voice, even to those who call themselves artists. You know who you are. Death to the patriarchy, now and forever. Hashtag risk what you value. Hashtag value what you risk. And if anybody needs to really understand here, Madonna, regardless of whether or not you want to call her white or not, her net worth is over $500 million. More specifically, $590 million. And I'll have you know, I said that patriarchy should come and just break my spine because I needed drinking money in my skit, but I'll have you know, this morning I stubbed my toe the wrong way and broke my toenail. So patriarchy,
damn patriarchy.
Patriarchy hit me up with that money real fucking quick.
I posted the meme. I'm gonna post this meme in the chat, guys, because this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is a meme I made because I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking right now. But yeah, it's exact same thing. But I posted it in your Discord link.
Okay.
You can find. Yeah, it's a tweet on the subject.
Okay.
But all I can think of is just this meme I made.
Okay.
Spent a lot of time.
All right. Okay.
Anyway.
Okay. Back on topic. White people's overwhelming success in nearly every aspect of America is because the deck is stacked in their favor by white privilege. Stop. No. There need no be an explanation for that. Just no. White people aren't inherently better. Stop. That's true. White people aren't inherently better. Which is the reason why when you say white people's overwhelming success in nearly every aspect of America is because the deck is stacked in their favor by white privilege, that's hogwash. It's just flat out not true. In fact,
Ben Carson.
In fact, there is multiple things that prove that that's not true. Because if it was always white people winning because of white privilege, there would be no black millionaires, there would be no black billionaires, there would be no black celebrities that have wealth that is comparable, if not greater than, the wealth of other people. From people like Charlemagne, or excuse me, not Charlemagne the God. That motherfucker stay broke, even though he's supposed to be a working ass man. No, I'm thinking of Chamillionaire. The guy, you remember, they see me rolling, they see me hating. He ended up making Make Your Studios and made a fuck ton in business venture capitalism. Because it was his website that ended up biting up all of that bandwidth that was used by Blip TV. And through Maker Studios, partnering with Disney, made a fuckload of fucking money.
God damn.
Certifiable billionaire. If he hasn't gotten even richer since then. You wouldn't have people like him. You wouldn't have people like Beyonce. You wouldn't have people like Sean, because I'm not calling Jay-Z Jay-Z. You wouldn't have people like Nelly. You wouldn't have... Shut. You wouldn't have people like black artists. You wouldn't have black artists. Peep the difference.
You wouldn't be able to tweet, damn it. You wouldn't be able to say this.
I wouldn't exist. There would be no black people.
There would be second class. It would be China. Basically, if this was the case, you'd be in China. But you're not in China now, are you, sir?
No.
Are you being blamed for the COVID, sir?
Sometimes.
Are you in China? Because that's what they're doing in China. They're not doing it here in America. I'm sorry. Just saying.
Sometimes I get accused for the corona. I want to order the number 9 special with extra fire sauce. You know what they call?
What's the number 9? I thought it was with extra dip.
No, it's the number 9, the sweet and sour sicken.
I thought number 9 large was like. I'm not gonna win this meme.
Nope.
Sorry.
Nope. No, you're not. But no, white privilege is not the reason why people are successful. That's not the reason why any of these white people are successful. There's multiple reasons, in fact, to explain why they're successful. On one hand, when you say white privilege, if you were to actually mean dynastic money from corporatistic shills that do whatever the corporation wants, that would be reasonable, because that would be true. There are plenty of people who only have careers and only have relative money to make of their own because someone else in their family was already rich. And a lot of those people end up being in politics because they're career politicians. And then their kids end up having money through them and get opportunities through them, and they make shit.
And then when they have a cracked pipe, they claim Russian interference.
Mm-hmm. And then sometimes...
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
And then sometimes you have people who start from nothing, but also had people who worked well enough to put them through the good schools to give them careers and money and business so that they could put it into being celebrities. And then they waylay their celebrity careers into marrying up in the highest form of hypergamy possible and end up becoming literal royalty, only to squander it and break a man down to his worst financial core and emotional center, putting his balls in her purse, and quite literally saying how actually she feels really bad that the fucking royal family she married into makes her have to do things because she's a head of fucking state. Or at least she was. If you have any idea anything about the British Crown, you know who I'm talking about. I'm not going to say her name.
At first... until you mentioned it started actually being forceful on the royalty, I thought you were referring to the Fresh Prince of Despair.
Nah.
Like it took until I realized you weren't talking about Will Smith's breakup.
Nah.
I know what you're talking about.
Nah.
Being figurative on the royalty thing.
Nah. In order for Will to have a breakup, he needs to actually leave her ass.
Fair.
Well, no. Sometimes it happens like that. And sometimes it happens through nepotism and also hypergamy. And then sometimes, in the case of people like Elon Musk, you have somebody who had parents that ended up giving them a very big load of seed money, but at the same time, the person went out into the world with risk, they saw an opportunity, they saw a business venture, they took it, they followed that to its core, and they ended up creating something, and now they're rich because of it. Even if they themselves and other people were able to make an idea work, but technically they put their names on a product and that's how they got money. Sometimes it happens for a lot of reasons like that. But there are so many more answers to explain why some white people are rich if what you're calling white is Anglo-Saxon, European, and not, Asian. Because that's racist.
Schrodinger's person of color.
I mean, white is
I told you that earlier.
White is a color. That's right. But there are more reasons why a person could have money that has a lot more to do with their circumstances and their opportunities that has little to do with white privilege. And even if there was white privilege, most of the opportunities happens to be because of how you work in society. Because as a black man, again, multiculti, I have to constantly say that, but unfortunately they don't see the multiple colors, they only see the black. As a black man, code switching is probably the most important thing to have to do when you're going out for a job. Period. Period. It's uncomfortable because yes, I have to use my white voice, but at the same time, I understand that it has nothing to do with white privilege, but has everything to do with employability.
As a matter of fact, I mean, I will say this much, Carl. If white privilege exists, I would be far better off than I am. I'm thankful I have my family, but not gonna lie, part of it's anxiety, but I think my life is proof that such a thing doesn't exist. Otherwise, I'd be able to pay my rent. That's as far as I'm going.
No, there's always porn.
Yeah, I could animate porn, but I promised my mother I wouldn't. So there's that.
Wholesome.
And I know what else you were thinking.
Wholesome. Oh, I was saying
yes.
You should probably make porn. That people will pay a pretty fucking penny for some weird ass shit, dude.
Believe me, that's how Nostalgia Critic got his 3D assets for the wall review, or at least that seems to be the theory as to why their mother-loving hips are in all these characters.
Anyways,
I couldn't resist. I'm sorry.
It is anyways. Moving on. White people aren't inherently better. Whiteness is inherently advantageous. To doubt this is cringeworthy obtuseness. I could be more than enough willing to argue that actually to claim that the only reason and that whiteness is inherently advantageous, period, at all times, and doubting even just a little bit that it may have something more to do with something that is not that, is in itself cringeworthy obtuseness. Especially how much it's being pursued on a regular basis, which kind of goes right into the next topic that I have right here. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, that one has a little bit more to do with something that's really, really fucking dumb. And that, unfortunately...
Oh, really?
Yes, that, unfortunately, is the news story about a couple of things, actually. There's one thing that I want to cover at the end, because it has more to do with video games than this does, but the thing right here...
Okay.
We have, I'm assuming, an article piece written by none other than the Grayson of Nathan. Y'all might remember him as one of the 5 men that fucked Chelsea Van Valkenburg, otherwise known
5 guys.
Otherwise known as Zoe Quinn. He
I thought it was Calvin Carson.
And a bunch of people have gotten up in arms to harass one Troy Levitt, who is the current person behind Hogwarts Legacy, a development project that he's been working on in the background for a bit, since he's now returned from his sabbatical from not being in game development. It's very important.
I bet you're regretting a decision now.
It's very important to mention this, because the reason why this is even being covered in news has a little bit more to do with something else entirely that is not supposed to even be close to being worthy of a news story, but unfortunately is. And the reason why it is because before these articles were written, you specifically had people digging through his account and digging through his other social media accounts, doing the usual thing that journalists do, archaeological grievance study. pulling up whatever they think that they could be able to use against them to attack and slander and antagonize them. And unfortunately...
But why?
You cut out your microphone.
Some random innocent game developer.
Just hold on, I couldn't hear you. It cut out your microphone for me.
Oh, I said, but why would they do it to this random person? What could he possibly be involved in? Kicking puppies?
No, but what they claimed is that he's responsible for being a part of Goobergay.
Why did they look into it in the first place, Carl?
Because they're ass mad. Because immediately... This story goes back a little bit before this, even before it involved Troy. This happened to be right around when people were still getting ass mad about the last thing they were upset at J.K. Rowling for, which, a tidbit, I learned something that I didn't know, and that's that J.K. Rowling actually has 100% control of Harry Potter as a franchise.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know that she had that.
Carl, to put it in context, she's the reason why book contracts now have a theme park clause.
Mm-hmm.
They have a fucking theme park clause in book deals because they got screwed over by her. She is essentially doing a George Lucas in the book industry because of all this.
I mean, good for her. Unironically, good for her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm just saying is that these people who want to cancel her are never going to do it. And these are the people who always quote or like, oh, this is just like Hogwarts in this one situation. And now they want to get rid of her because they have these memories. And, well, you literally will never get it. Not just because she has fucking movie money, but what you just said. She has to approve everything. The butter beer at Universal had to be approved by her personally. Anyway.
Girl boss. Fucking girl boss. Oh, I gotta say there. But let's go.
I just love it. I love it. It's... What?
Let's get into Nathan's tweet before we get into the article itself. Archive, of course. Links in the chat for both pieces. It doesn't get much more on the nose than this. From Totaku, Hogwarts Legacy lead designer used to run anti-social justice YouTube account. That is partially true. Realistically, Troy Levitt was working with Disney Interactive. And then he left to take a sabbatical from game design. And in the interim period, around about, say, 2015-16 or so, he made an account where he basically was having fun making videos. You know, he was experimenting. A dude who's done nothing but game design all of his career, trying his hand at being a YouTuber. It was okay. Videos weren't like anything along the lines of, say, Jeremy and the Quartering, you know? It wasn't... It's not like it was Yellow Flash. It's not like it was that Umbrella Guy. It's not like it was Ethan Van Sciver levels of, oh my god, guys, can you believe it? You know, it wasn't that kind of...
It wasn't clickbait. It was just
it was
small YouTuber.
It was small YouTuber. Here's a topic that I wanted to talk about. Let's get into the numbers.
That perch. Yeah.
Yes. But, like, the correct way to get into numbers. Like Aiden Paladin levels of let's deep dive the numbers.
So perch. Yes. Okay.
And the thing that he made that pissed them the fuck off here is that he made a multi-part response to Anita's claims in her Tropes vs. Women series. Specifically, the accusation they made, because I ended up actually talking to him. I've spoken to the man. He does not care about Gamergate. He has no fucking stake in it. He doesn't believe it. And he already knows that less than 1% of it is actual harassment, because he had an actual hand in asking the FBI to investigate it.
Really? Okay, that's interesting. That's very interesting, actually.
Like, I wrote an entire thread of this. It's one of my moments. I'll link that in the chat, too. because I've been linking it all day, because it's very important that you actually fucking see and hear what he said. Because he does not make any anti-SJW accusation towards Anita. And, by extension, Jonathan McIntosh, because he's technically pushing back against both of them. It is very important that people know that. Because if you didn't know that, you would think it was just be another case of a lead designer being antagonized because they won't bend the knee. It's not that at all. That's the fucking cover story. No, what they're putting in there is putting here in the article of saying, guys, this man might actually be an undercover chud. That's not the actual reason why they're mad about him. The reason they're mad about him is because he politely and calmly pointed out the inconsistency and the entire fucking cope train that goes around game development and people who have been bending the knee to the idea of putting female characters into digital Sharia law. Because the actual numbers from Troy's response in his part 2 response is that from 37% of all games rated E for everyone to mature rated, and then concluding and including the median numbers of 1.6% of mature-only games from 2016, the data points that Anita put forward when she said all video games are sexist and they have to change because they're making women uncomfortable, is she literally told a lie about less than 2% of the mature rated games of that era, to the point of being 3.7%, but let's round that number, so less than 4% of all games that were released literally that year. That was something that he broke down in his study, because he's a game designer, and this was an accusation that I made about her, which is she's not a game designer. The professional game designer took time in his personal time to ask the basic question of, bitch, why the fuck you lying? In the polite way that a normal man would, but yes.
My God, I can see why they want to censor him. You know why?
Yes, why?
He did the Bully Hunter fact check to Anita Sarkeesian.
Yes.
That is literally what he did. He said, what you're saying is not only inaccurate, but destructive.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why, and this is exactly why you basically extrapolated the numbers. No wonder they're trying to cancel him under the guise of Harry Potter.
Realistically.
No wonder.
Yes. Realistically,
I can see it.
I went into this in my thread. Because this is actually a problem that only exists when you combine the insular nepotism of game journalism along with people creating hit pieces for the purposes of slandering people in the press. Because this is...
It's a perfect storm.
It's the problem of cytogenesis. A perfect example of this is how Feminist Frequency tries, but fails most of the time, tries to get Anita to be signed onto projects as a counselor. Because that's how she tries to make her money. Hire me to counsel you on your game so you can make your game more progressive, right? But
you gotta love what games she has had her credits on and how well they did.
And yet, Anita Sarkeesian is the person who is on record saying, and I quote, and I'm going to play this quote really quick. It's 26 seconds long, saying, and I quote,
"We need to put pressure on them." Right, we need to either make them fear in some way that they're not, that they're not going to sell their game, or they could sell their game more if they did this. That somehow challenging them and making them feel like they have to do this, they have to include this, because then they're going to be like behind the times. And I think we do that by continuing to put pressure, by continuing to critique work. We need to.
The full quote itself being exactly. We need to make them fear in some way that they won't sell their game, and make them think that they have to do this. To get video game publishers to change the way they behave, we need to put pressure on them, make them fear in some way that they won't sell their game, make them think that they have to do this, and we do this by continuing to critique, continuing to pressure, and continuing to critique work. Because the way that this plays out when you're a person who is a number fiend, like Troy, and unfortunately like myself, when you sit down and you actually look at how feminist frequency behaves, there is a commonality in this. And the commonality is that it is the fudging of the numbers on the greatest scale. You don't have to take me for my word at it. You can literally go look at her tweet, because the tweets are still up. Her tweets and also Jonathan McIntosh's tweets. These ones are in context to the tweets that were made for E3 2019. But these tweets are them putting out charts and numbers for video game protagonists listed by percentage of gender. Video game protagonists of gender from 2015 to 2019. Charts and scales and graphs and numbers that are mining for grievances. So they can say, oh, you say that it was the most progressive year, but we only had 19% of all of the protagonists as female. Why wasn't it higher? It's bullshit. It's out and out bullshit. But worse off is the process of cytogenesis that comes from this, which is somebody writes a hit piece. You know, they write a completely hyper-partisan study about, hey, did you know that this developer actually is super far right because we've concluded that they are? And then they put that forward as though it is true. And then you have several journalists write pieces about that, and then each of them reference each other, building it up as though it is actually true. The
it gets progressively more outlandish. It almost is a game of telephone.
No, it gets progressively more monolithic. Instead of it being, here's some words and here's some calculations from Feminist Frequency and Anita Sarkeesian about the games that are out. Instead, you get tweets written as, and I quote, "This year's E3 was the second worst year for female representations since we started collecting this data 5 years ago. Not a great sign for the state of the industry." You get fear.
Sean Gamers did this too. Did a video on this exact subject. Sorry.
Yes, you get fear-mongering pieces like this, and then you get people like Nathan Grayson coming along, then taking those pieces and having built it up with the insular fucking goblins that they are, ironing goblins that have no fucking scrutiny and no goddamn scruples and no principles, that then go on to say, it doesn't get much more on the nose than this. At the very least, this functions as a look in the inner machinations of big companies when it comes to far-right extremism, Gamergate, etc. They try to feign ignorance when they really step in it. See THQ going on 4chan. That's a fucking lark, and we all know the reason why, because Folding Ideas, Dan Olson, tried to put child porn on the website and then tried to link back to it to like, hey guys, did you know this is here? When they literally have the IP and they literally know that he goddamn did it. But moving on.
That was amazing.
But moving on. But the truth is that they know they just don't care. Quoting inside of the piece, some of you have expressed that due to my commentary on some game industry controversies and my sympathies, this is Troy speaking. Some of you have expressed that due to my commentary on some game industry controversies and my sympathies for the Gamergate movement, that I might have a difficult time should I ever want to return to professional game development, Levitt said. I am happy to say that even though I disclosed my YouTube channel to WB Games, it didn't appear to be an issue for them. Not that they endorse anything that I've said, of course, but they at least seem more concerned with making good games than pushing some kind of social justice agenda, so there is hope. End quote. So literally,
how dare you?
No. Literally, I told them what I did, and they said, "Bitch, we don't fucking care. Get in the studio and make shit. You're hired."
Yeah.
So WB in this case is based, marinated, grill pilled.
Well, there's a first time for everything.
I mean, this coming after Top Hat telling them go fuck yourselves, and then showing the harassment.
Yeah.
WB, I could give you fucking sloppy toppy right now.
How do you do that to a corporation, though?
You suck all their dicks.
What if they don't have a dick?
The female clitoris hood is a penis.
So you're going to be up in their hood?
Mm-hmm.
I know. That sounded more clever in my mind. I'm sorry.
Anyways, moving on. Quoting Nathan's tweet. Dipshits coming out of the woodwork to pretend like my tweets have in any way impacted their awareness of a game based on Chex paper. One of the single most popular series in human history is the funniest shit on earth. This sounds a lot like I am not responsible nor am I an important person. Please stop attacking me for my opinions. By the way, hey, Ninja, Tyler Blevins, you have to take responsibility for your audience. When you talk about problems, you need to teach the kids how to do shit. And then along comes Liana Kurzner. Hey, can I get an apology for all your people dogpiling me? Bitch, you don't deserve an apology for shit! It sounds a kind of lot like that. It sounds a lot like Cope. Just saying.
Copium.
Just saying. It sounds a lot like, oops, people actually know that we're talking about this, and most of the people who are in their mentions weren't upset about this, actually. What they actually said was, I'm going to pre-order this game 17 times. That's what most people were saying. They were saying, oh, so because he was hired. They were hired for real reasons? They weren't hired as a social agenda? They actually are good at what they're doing? Sounds great. Plenty of people do not give a shit. There's plenty of people in the mentions that are coping for this and caping for it. But
obviously,
most of the people did not fucking care about Troy Levitt, about the videos on the channel, or nothing. And the reason why is because most people don't give a fuck about the goober gay. The only people who do is the journalists.
People do it out of spite. The internet is, if you're trying to shame people into not doing something, you just made it happen 10 times over. I was just talking about that to my dad today.
On top of this, the reason...
That's the funny thing about the world.
On top of this, the reason why this came up was because somebody went digging explicitly to try and do that thing that they always do when they want to try and socially destroy someone, like, uh-oh, I wonder if somebody's gonna pay attention to this, and hopefully nothing happens. Specifically, one Liam Robertson, Dr. Cupcakes, who happens to work for some of these companies. Quote, in his thread where he's trying to put Troy on blast, I want to make something clear here. I'm not trying to cancel anyone. I just wanted to let people know this because I feel like it's something people might like to know before deciding whether to support this project. This is all public info and is there for anyone to find. Yes, Liam, that's true. But here's the thing. Despite it being there for people to find, literally nobody fucking looked for it except for people like you. What does this tell us? You were looking for a problem. So you put it there to try and piss people off. But it didn't work. Now people want to buy the product even more. Cope. But
gotta love it.
Moving on to the Kotaku article itself. Written by Ian Walker.
Okay.
Troy Levitt is a lead designer at Warner Brothers development studio Avalanche Software, currently working on controversial, I wouldn't say it's controversial, Harry Potter game Hogwarts.
I like Avalanche Software.
Hogwarts Legacy. He also ran a reactionary YouTube channel focused on attacking feminism and social justice for over a year. It's not attacking something to have a criticism of it. If you consider that attacking, any person ever laughing at... If you consider that attacking you, any person who ever makes a joke about your profession and never takes you seriously is an attack on your credibility. Which, if so, good. This information was first provided by Did You Know Gaming's contributor, Liam Robertson, literally referencing the fact, literally referencing it in the article, who highlighted the channel Friday evening on Twitter. An accompanying screenshot shows a small portion of Levitt's YouTube channel with video titles such as The Injustice of Social Justice, In Praise of Cultural Appropriation, Are Thought Crimes Becoming Real? A latter of a reference to George Orwell's dystopian words. Right-wing...
They think people are stupid to not know?
Well, you see, they're writing this for... They're not writing this for us. They're writing this for normies. People who haven't drank the Kool-Aid all the way, but are being offered a cup.
People... I think normies have read in 1984, but that's just me.
No, they're trying to fill things in because they want people to, like, skim over these things. What they're doing right now... Like, what they're doing right now in just these two paragraphs is just propaganda linguistics. They're framing the story as though the website itself...
Carl, I get that. My complaint was, this motherfucker thinks people have never read 1984. That's all I meant. I understand the rest. I was specifically upset that he's like had to go through that. Anyway.
No, I got that. but this is the important part, because people in the audience need to know. Because
Okay,
some people don't understand how linguistics like this works.
Okay.
They are presenting the idea of this story apropos of the fact that WB already knew about the channel. WD doesn't care. So, in order to get people upset, they present this as though it's controversial, taboo, and scandalous that he should, number one, have a personal YouTube channel. Number two, make videos on that channel during his time off in his sabbatical for over a year. And number three, listing none of the content of the videos, but simply reading the titles. What are you doing in the background?
I'm just moving things around. I'm sorry, that was too loud. My apologies.
It's okay. They are presenting these things as though they are bad, showing you none of the context, showing you none of the content in the video, and simply taking screenshots of it and making you think, ooh, spooky, right wing, Nazi. It's supposed to get you scared, but there's nothing scary here, especially if you've already seen the content. And then they go on to follow this up with right-wing commentators, so they're accusing him of being right-wing, despite the fact that he's actually left-wing. Conservative in nature, yes, but the man is more of a liberal than anything close to, like, say, oh, I don't know, a Gropier.
Shapiro.
Yeah, I don't think Ben Shapiro is, like, right-wing.
Oh, you say that, but that I dare you to try and find a crazy person willing to agree with you on that. But
I mean, I would just say that's not necessarily him not being left-wing. That's him being a neocon.
Fair. Continue.
But anyways, they then followed it up by saying right-wing commentators often use the book's authoritative Big Brother government as a comparison point to their criticism, likening the fictional Severus state to real-world equality movements. By the way, at the same time, China right now is taking people's information to try and build a social media profile to start spying on people in mass wholesale, and also the American government is trying to model a system of social credit with the COVID to do the exact same thing. Even though there are officials that have been saying, actually, we should be able to get right back to normal, right as rain, right about mid-April. So, you're saying that it's not true, but at the same time, governments are literally doing that. Over in the UK,
the sector's catching up too.
Over in the UK, there are there are people who who are on tape having their homes being infiltrated by the fucking state police, using the same font from the "you wouldn't steal a movie, you wouldn't steal a car" infomercial about online movie piracy, to somehow frame that it is a crime for people in their homes to gather, because they are literally doing the very thing that you claim is just people using the iconography to invite some kind of idea, even though that's not actually happening. Never mind. Yes, what?
I will say this. They're saying this. Do we have a? Has anyone made any clocking of how quickly everything, the term preference was changed from being perfectly acceptable to say in regards to sexual preference to being a hate crime?
Yes.
Do we have a clock on that? Do we have the time? How quickly the Ministry of Truth changed that across the entire internet?
They still lost. Amy Coney Barrett still beat.
Well, yeah, my point, though, is this person's saying this. And like you say, in the public sector, yes, you're very much correct. And all I can think of is that moment. That was a Ministry of Truth moment. And they're saying, oh, that's not happening. The Airstrip one is totally not authoritarian. And we've always been at war with Eurasia.
Surprisingly, of all the pieces and parts of our government that are still grabbing for power, trying to grab our guns and shit like that, it's SCOTUS that's been extremely quiet. Almost as though they understand that. But not the point of this.
Imagine that.
The point is that shit like this is actually happening right now in the real world. And these motherfuckers, and their worst concern is being worried about old videos that aren't even relative to the scene as it exists now, except for the fact that actually, you guys bought the idea of making women into objects of digital Sharia law because you were told by somebody who fudged her numbers so fucking big that the fudge spot is a birthmark. That actually, these things are so sexist you have to change them, despite the fact she had no background in history and video games by her own fucking word. But you did it anyways, because you have to listen to her. She's a woman and she's crying. Moving on, though.
She's also fat. She gained a lot of weight. I'm just saying.
No comment. For the purposes...
My last comment on that is, haha, charade you are. But anyway.
For legal reasons, that is a joke.
I'm quoting a song.
I know.
That's what I said.
I know. Among Levitt's other videos are lengthy defenses of both John Lasseter, the Pixar co-founder. He left his position at Disney in 2017 after allegations of sexual misconduct, and Noel Bushell, the Atari co-founder, who Kotaku's reportings found fostered a toxic work environment for women. Probably because he had a direct connection with them, considering he used to work for Disney. I'm not going to speak to the affability of whether or not he is wrong for having done so, but it's his opinion. How is this relevant to his ability to do game design? Moving on.
Well, all I can think of is Stone Toss game design? Question mark.
In some of his
you know
videos,
what I'm referencing.
yes. In some of his videos, Levitt expressed support for Gamergate, a movement that fostered harassment against women and other minorities in the gaming industry, and criticizing the Circadian Stroke vs. Women series as an uninformed fringe position, because it is, because she was an outsider to video games, and self-expressed that she was an outsider. Well, it depends on what you consider as finished. Do you mean that she didn't turn in a product, or that she didn't do the entire grandiose, big budget thing that she said you wanted?
The latter.
Because in that case, yes, she didn't finish it. But there's going to be plenty of people who will be like, actually, she could have did more than what she said. But we don't listen to those people.
Kickstarter, I'm going by the Kickstarter. That's all I'm doing.
I know. But moving on. Levitt discussed his opinions on Gamergate in depth during a 2017 interview, saying, Gamergate, while painful at times, on the whole proved to be a good thing. Yes, it would. Because, Nathan Grayson, what would have happened if nobody would have said, hey guys, did you know that Nathan's banging Zoe? While having to be forced to disclose that, yes, you've had an intimate personal relationship with them and you've worked with them before, and you are endorsing their projects as a journalist, literally giving them free clout and publicity. That is a good thing. That is a good thing that you're being forced to disclose your business relationships. Because
do you guys not get blow for positive privilege?
I once got ahead when somebody told me to talk them up to their friends, and never mind. Blizzard Con. Do not have phones.
It is called a segue. It is a segue. You don't have to react to it.
Fair point.
It's okay, man. Not everybody's comedians.
I'm not very good at it. My timing's off.
It goes on to say, Levitt didn't respond to Kotaku's multiple requests for comment in time for publication. Based! That's the correct choice, Troy. And of course, here in the article, if you're scrolling down and reading along, this is a screenshot of the things. They decided to go and do the easiest one they could do, which was just literally go down to the more recent ones and not to the ones that would be more relevant to the time period, because he stopped uploading to it eventually. He has some things here from, I think, as much as several years ago. Let's zoom in on what they have.
I mean, Carl,
it doesn't look
let's be honest here. Whenever I get slammed for some animation thing I do, they always get the most recent thing on the stack. They never dig deep. Otherwise, they'd have a lot more ammo on me.
Well, yes, but looking here at this screenshot that they've made, I'm assuming they have this sorted by newest at the top, which the newest one would be from 2 years ago. All of these have moderate views. Some have 7.7K, some have 11K, some as big as like 40K. But
shit, they got me beat.
They don't have any of the ones that actually criticized Anita in the screenshot. None. Absolutely none of them. And I know what their screenshots look like, and I know what the thumbnails of them look like because I've watched them. I had to reference them in order to make my tweet. They have up here, violence video games in Venezuela. Bushnell did nothing wrong. Shapiro's excluded middle. Black Mirror analysis. USS Callister. 12 script changes to save The Last Jedi. Gaming fast lanes and net neutrality. Title II net neutrality repealed. In defense of John Lasseter. Why I'm opposed to Title II net neutrality. It's okay to be a gamer. Response to Philip DeFranco's take on net neutrality. The injustice of social justice. NBC News blames gamers for hijack of Discord servers in praise of cultural appropriation. Female game developer fired for sexist tweet. Excerpt from Strange World MGTOW. Las Vegas second shooter conspiracy busted. And the last one in the screenshot, are gamers toxic? A response to Charles Randall. So reply guy level shit. Like, things that everybody was doing around that time period, you know? Things that you would have expected from somebody like Bass FFZ. Or FCZ, excuse me. I got your name wrong, man. I'm sorry about that. But none of this is anything to cause for alarm or concern. Absolutely not. Why they would choose these ones specifically and not scroll down and try to find really bad ones, I don't know. But moving on. A veteran developer, Levitt got his start as a consultant on games like 1996's Twisted Metal 2 and 1997's Jet Moto 2, eventually moving on to a long stint at Disney. He contributed to a variety of licensed games and directed several Disney Infinity expansions before leaving the company in July 2016. Levitt published his first video to his YouTube channel in September, sharing a steady stream of content until his last upload in May 2018. It's accrued over 24,000 subscribers and 2 million total views. While the channel hasn't been active recently, Levitt's Twitter profile still links to it, along with his status as a Hogwarts Legacy developer. In one video, Levitt claims that he made his employers at Warner Bros. Aware of the channel after being hired at Avalanche Software in February 2018, and that they didn't seem too worried about his content. And this is their way they inserted that quote. Warner Bros. Declined to comment when contacted by Totaku for a statement on Levitt's views and involvement with Hogwarts Legacy. Both of those tweets read as follows. We tried to antagonize him into giving us a quote for our article, but he was too wise to fall for a bait. And then we tried to get Warner Brothers to give a comment, but they were too wise to our shit and were already warned, so we have nothing. But we're gonna say like it's something bad and sinister, because of course we will. Hogwarts Legacy has already drawn concerns from fans. Due to the controversy around its source material, J.K. Rowling, blah, 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 words, you guys already know what this is saying. In September 2020, Warner Bros. Added a section to the official Hogwarts Legacy fact, explaining that Rowling is not directly involved with the game apart from providing the rights to her Harry Potter franchise. By the way, everybody remembers when they announced that, right? And everybody was like, haha, cope and seethe at J.K. Rowling, right? How fucking quick did they fucking whiplash themselves to realize, wait, we're not actually winning? Did I disconnect? Charza. It appears that we've lost Charza. We're gonna try and see if we can get him back real quick, but let me continue reading.
Carl, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I just realized that you weren't talking.
No, I was trying to say something. I will say this much. I'm sure they are saying she's not involved and are at the same time saying the licensing is probably how she's involved, even though that contradicts it. And also, one thing I forgot to mention earlier, considering when his sabbatical was, I would not be surprised if it was because of Avalanche basically being shattered. I only remembered that they were making this game, Avalanche Software, because I remember watching a recent video of what happened involving Toys to Life. Anyway.
But in context to them yelling and being mad at J.K. Rowling, how quickly they turned their fucking head around to try and find another way to try and win the day. because they actually realized that actually we're not getting what we want here, which kind of proves
Of
that
course not.
it had nothing to really do with anything that she was saying and doing. It had a lot more to do with the fact that they really just want to win. Although
They actually care about what they're doing? Well, that's a weird way of saying it.
yeah, we would have thought game developers would care about things.
No, I'm just saying is that I was more referring to the activists who thought they actually won.
Well, that's when you're these guys, you kind of have to always go in like a mile a minute, and it has less to do with like specifically winning anything and more to do with like you need to put on the face as though you know what you're talking about at all moments, because if you ever show even a sign of like holy shit, you know, if like you're like, oh man, I'm in over my head, and people realize it, then then your career is just basically over, because you're confirming.
So basically, a Jezebel article we started with.
Yeah.
Nice little bow, you know.
Moving on from that, when contacted by Kotaku around that time, Warner Brothers pointed us towards a statement the company gave to Variety in June 2020 concerning Rowling's anti-trans statements. The events of the last several weeks have firmed our resolve as a company to confront difficult societal issues. Warner Brothers' position on inclusiveness is well established, and fostering a diverse and inclusive culture has never been more important to our company and to the audiences around the world. We deeply value the work of our storytellers. We give as much in themselves, and sharing their creations with us all. We recognize our responsibility to foster empathy and advocate understanding to all communities and all people, and especially those we work with and those we reach through our content. Which is just a presser that means, bitch, leave us the fuck alone. We gave you what you wanted. Why are you harassing us? Go away. Later that month, Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment president David Haddad reportedly told employees during a private Q&A that Rowling was entitled to express her personal opinion on social media, which she is, because it's her personal opinion. You can't take it away from her. Many fans have expressed concerns over Levitt's involvement with Hogwarts Legacy since his YouTube history came up a few days, because that was the fucking point of this goddamn article, you goddamn hacks. Spurred on by the controversies already surrounding the upcoming game, several users on his popular gaming forums Reset Era
That's popular?
That's
Maybe,
a sentence.
I would argue V is more popular than Reset Era.
That's a sentence. Ooh, that's a sentence. They're really feeling themselves.
Can't say with a straight face.
Oh shit. Whew.
Did you just come, Carl?
A little bit. A little bit. The audacity. Oh my god.
To them, it's popular.
To them, it is popular. You know,
they also believe many things that don't make any sense. So not very far.
From the media circle that said that literally antagonized John Boyega and Ikumi Nakamura for not being the right kind of minorities. What?
I love her.
Picking back up. Several users on the popular gaming forum Reset Era have asked moderators to ban Hogwarts Legacy discussion altogether due to both Rowling's influence on the franchise and Levitt's work as a lead designer. A request moderators seem to be taking seriously. Video games are made by massive teams of people with vastly different opinions, backgrounds, and viewpoints and opinions. Even as lead designers, they are very unlikely. Levitt has single-handedly infected every every aspect of Hogwarts Legacy with an anti-feminist agenda. That said, it's obvious why folks might be wary of interacting with a game developed by someone with his beliefs, adapted from works that have been sullied by their creator's own bigoted worldview. Harry Potter might not be my personal cup of tea, but I feel for those who have seen something they cherished growing up become such a minefield of intolerance.
So Star Wars.
It's so sad. Just it's so sad. Because then you have people who are a part of Kotaku that are part of their fucking GMG union just trying to lay into the shit. Specifically, from Mortal Dictata, it's not even just anti-SJW. He's an anti-tax, anti-regulation, anti-feminist. open quote, close quote, pro gamer, libertarian weirdo who also supports putting the National Guard in schools. I did a quick glance through his Twitter when he Did You Know Games tweet was shared in a Discord server that I'm on. I'm pausing for the shock. For maybe 15 minutes, and it was hilarious how absurd his views are. And all there is in this screenshot is a tweet that says, agreed. And then it's pointing to a tweet that says, when both sides are wrong, George Floyd's death and the violent responses. Which, okay, but that's true. And why are you mad? But that was that story. It's everything that you expect from journalists and more, but made worse by the fact that they are quite literally cherry-picking and trying to pat themselves on the back. And it's blowing up in their face. It's unfortunate. Because all the people you usually expect. The check marks are trying to fight an optics war with normal people in their comments. Where from people like Mitch Dyer, Mitchy D. I will pretend to spend money on this. A thing that you talked about to spite you. A person with no financial stake in it is my favorite response these people's guys have saved for copy and pasting. Yeah, but you're mad about it. So, what else really needs to be said there? Other than this is just a hit piece being spread around again, the way that they do with all hit pieces again, and they have absolutely no fucking shame in what they're doing, because they clearly don't fucking care. They clearly don't care about what may happen to Troy. They don't care about whether it gets the game canceled or for any other fucking reason why it's actually a fucking problem. And this actually brings us to what I wanted to close the podcast on, which is an unfortunate piece of shit. An unfortunate piece of dog shit that I had the horror of finding out while I've been trying to play Diablo 2 on the side. As everybody knows, the BlizzCon event was earlier today, where they talked about Diablo 2 Resurrected. Diablo 2 being, of course, the ARPG that kind of made the genre what it is, paving the way for one of my other most favorite games, with his Path of Exile. Probably a farming character's favorite fucking deluge to play, mindlessly, for hours on end. Great shit. Really love it. I've been trying to have fun playing the single-player campaign, because not all of the things that a person could do in that game can be done if you're not playing on the servers when you're playing online. Because the way that Battle.net works for Diablo 2 is that you have two versions of the game. You have the online version, and then you have the offline version. You have the offline single player. And one of the things that they tried to do to get people to enjoy the online experience is they made the latter, and let me just take this and put this here inside of the chat for everybody. Because this one is actually a doozy. Because I didn't discover this the way that most people would have. I discovered this while I was trying to troubleshoot the reason why I couldn't connect to the multiplayer servers. And oh boy.
Oh no.
Oh no. Oh boy, this is a big piece of dog shit. It's shit. It is shit. So, the reason why it's important that I say that there are parts of the game that are inaccessible unless the game is connected to the multiplayer servers is because originally, people who have played ARPGs know this, but if you've played Diablo 2, like in its heyday, you know this for a fact. Bots are a problem. They are a very serious problem. In fact, it is the fact that you still to this day, even now, have Diablo 2 storehouse websites being ran by gold farmers who have made armies of bots. Bots for auto farming, bots for auto leveling, bots for auto enchanting players and auto inviting them to the party, so that a player who starts out at level 1 can just go do quests with 50 billion sorcerer enchant damage. That gives them the ability to do triple number damage at the beginning of the game when you're supposed to only do double number damage between 1 to 8. Shit like this ruins the online experience. And it is very much, in fact, that very trial and tribulation that led to Diablo 3 Vanilla being so dog shit, More than just Error 84 or Error 68, whichever error it was. I can't remember, but boy, am I still traumatized by it. Of being unable to connect to the goddamn servers because the servers are failing because everybody's trying to log in at once. But also to the failure that was the real money auction house and how many people were making fucking bank off of that shit. Imagine it, if you can, guys. Making money off of farming for items in Diablo 3. Because you have to grind to even have the ability to have Magic Find. Because Magic Find as a stat was removed wholesale from your items. Grinding out 24/7, day in, day out, for weeks and months on end, to try and flip an item for real money because some other dude is unwilling to do the exact same thing. That was what they went from when they tried to correct the problem with bots in Diablo 2. On top of the fact that things like the Annulus Charm and the Hellfire Torch Charm, which really is just another way of saying very high-end end-game content that not a lot of people will see, because one of them is actually hidden behind a network trick, and the other one is specifically connected to having so many, well, actually no, one is a gold sink for a unique item in the game that was used as a gold value, and the other one is a super uber specific thing that requires you farm a lot, which by the standards of what you would consider now with farming, with like playing at Path of Exile, would be like a moderate level of playing the game. Those things don't exist if you can't play Battle.net. So, when I was having trouble connecting to Battle.net, I went looking at the US help forums. And unfortunately, what was discovered by a customer talking to Blizzard is that they couldn't connect to the game no matter what they did. So, they went to them and asked them to explain what the problem is. This is what a member of customer support said to them. Hey, Boher being the OP, I checked into this a bit further for you. The IP address you're posting from and accessing the game from shows up as Spectrum Business. We prevent business class IPs from connecting to classic Battle.net in Diablo 2 for reasons related to cheating and botting. These players often use VPNs or business connections to connect. We understand that this may prevent some legitimate players from being able to play Diablo 2 at work and such. That's not a concern, but I'll get back to this in a second. But this is a necessary price to pay to cut down on the number of botters and cheaters in the game. Open quote, end quote.
I read that. That was... Continue.
It continues with a reply from the person in question. This isn't true at all. I'm not saying you're lying, but you clearly don't know all the facts. It was implemented to take out the spam bots in D2 and it worked, but it wasn't to prevent botting and cheating. If you had access to D2, simply log into each realm and look at the sheer number of 98s and 99s across the ladders on all realms of the D2 Lord of Destruction expansion. There are more than 10,000, and these are all bots. You can simply make a level 1 character and see that the game is full of public chant bots that are fully loaded with the latest hacks that do endless cows and enchants all party members in town. These bots run 24/7 for 6 months straight, and the user numbers they generate look good on the reports to shareholders. Reporting these botters to Hack Blizz does nothing, and Hack at Blizzard is the official reporting page to be a whistleblower to help them find things out, which is in the same view as reporting a problem to Jagex, another company with RuneScape, and more specifically old school RuneScape as well as RuneScape 3, that has a serious problem with botters. Also, this restriction system your company has implemented is corrupt. I have no problem with its purpose, but not telling new customers of the game at some point of purchase that it will lead to a 2-week to 1 month restriction is by far the most evil and corrupt gaming business practice in the history of gaming. It is disgusting, and not putting a warning message up on the post of logins is also terrible business practice by a poorly managed company. It continues further down the line. It gets worse. Because there are people that have literally shown this is true. There are videos. There's one linked in this thread, pulled from a channel called Diablo 2 in 2020, where they show that these bots are full and rampantly running the servers. You have gate-crashing bots breaking into private games and being able to farm other people's games. You have public enchant bots. You have public shout bots. You have public farming bots, you have bots literally just power farming game after game after game after game, accruing the items, putting them in the D2 storehouse that of the owner who owns the bots, and then selling that for real world money, the way that they've always been doing. Literally, inside of the patch notes, I can literally show you this. In the BattleNet patch notes for Lord of Destruction 1.14d, I'm pulling it up right now.
You're fine. I'm trying to be listening. 'Cause I have, wow.
Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Diablo 2 wiki. I have to go to the fucking direct wiki page to pull it up. Fuck me. Diablo 2, patch notes, patch notes, patch notes, patch notes. That's not what I'm looking for. One.
I'll chime in here for a sec, if I may,
Go
while
ahead.
you're looking that up briefly. This reminds me a lot of the, what's the word? The lowest subreddit private accomplishment line. It reminds me of that. But it's almost worse. It's lit. And now I know what it reminds me of. It reminds me of have any kind of protection on them. DVDs had a set key that decrypted them. That got leaked online. So Blu-ray had a continuously updating game of cat and mouse between Blu-ray keys and all this other junk. Then the 4K Blu-rays happened, and for Blu-ray, certain Blu-rays, like 4K Blu-rays require it. It's like, we're not asking thing. And I remember HD DVDs having like online features that no longer exist because HD DVD is dead. It's the same thing where they're basically saying, we're going to treat every single one of you as a motherfucking pirate, the paying customer, or in the case of another example would be the Street Fighter Cross Tekken and the DLC on the disc. It's like the people who are going to hack it are going to get the better product. All you're doing is fucking people over who are paying legitimately. Ready when you are with the patch notes.
Yes. Inside of patch notes from May 18th, 2016, for patch 114C. Copying it over into the chat. They literally say inside their fucking logs. So under known issues. This was in 2016. Spammers are still making us all sad. We're working on it. 4 years. 4 years since they have publicly acknowledged that this was a problem. They are still having this issue. It has not been solved, and the method in which they have taken to solving it is a non-solution. It goes on for a bit. You have people inside of the thread that are complaining at Blizzard and the Blizzard employees that are trying to talk to them that are literally asking, why is this working like this? And people who are trying to also give help, who are just confused and are trying to understand things. And you know what they said since this thread was put out? Because this was from so far back in 2019, going into May 20th, May of 2020. From customer support, Drakulov. Hey folks, it looks like this thread got a lot of totally unrelated traffic. The original poster was temporarily banned for using a business connection. The rest of you may be having wildly different issues. If you get this when logging in, you are likely temporarily restricted, which support cannot help with. You should review this article for information on how this happens and how to avoid it. I can tell you exactly what's in this article, because it's also part of this thread. Temporary play restrictions for Diablo 2. Diablo 2 servers will automatically restrict connections when a game client is performing unauthorized behaviors. These restrictions sounds nice, right? It gets worse as you keep reading. These restrictions exist to maintain server stability and prevent exploitative behavior such as botting and hacking. If you're using an IP address that is shared with any other users, notice here how it does not say specifically anything about this until you get further down in it. So make sure you're paying attention to this. If you're using an IP address which is shared with any other users, any restrictions that will affect all users of the IP. If you share your IP address with other players who have gotten a restriction, you'll need to require a different IP address. Connection restrictions to Diablo 2 can be applied for such behavior as attempting to use an invalid CD key, attempting to use a hacked or modified game client to log into Battle.net. Seems reasonable, right? Using unauthorized third-party programs and add-ons. Seems really reasonable, right? Here's where it's about to get bonkers as fuck. Connecting to Battle.net using a business network, cloud hosting service, VPN, or proxy. I want you to remember that as we get towards the end of this. Rapidly connecting and disconnecting from Battle.net, switching between accounts or characters too quickly, leaving and joining games too quickly, scrolling through skill selection too quickly using the mouse wheel, repeatedly leaving an area and coming back to change shop or gambling items, which is actually a legitimate method of playing the game because gambling items requires you to leave a menu and reopen the menu in order to get a refreshed shop. And for some players, if you're using a technique that I use to try and buy things from the Anya vendor in Haragath, you can actually go inside the red portal that goes to Nilothok's temple to fight the Nilothok boss and use it to reset Anya's shop, because most of the shops inside of the game don't switch their inventory until you enter into a battle screen, which means you leave the town and you go to a combat zone. But anyways, repeatedly using a spell with no cast delay, such as Amplify Damage or Glacial Spike. Specifically, Amplify Damage is a curse, but what that actually is there is they are specifically targeting the thing that players were just describing. Auto-enchanting and battle-crying bots that auto-buff you so that you can have their buffs at all times. Repeatedly using an incorrect password, harassing other players, advertising inappropriate website URLs, spamming text or chat commands such as /whisper or whois, connecting to Battle.net with more than 8 clients, which is multi-boxing. Which realistically, that's more to combat muling, because if you're a person who's running a bot account, which is what most of this is targeted towards, it's targeted towards people who are advertising their storefronts and are using their bots to farm multiple things at once. Realistically, if you're using a mule account, you can log into the account on another fucking connection using the same key, because they eventually made an upgrade that said you didn't actually have to worry about people being connected using the same key. Because if you used to play this game back when it was in its heyday, if you tried, let's say you shared the game with your siblings and you all used the same CD key. If somebody logged into the game using that CD key, you would get a menu screen that said, you cannot play the game, somebody with this CD key registered is already playing. So they did away with that eventually. At the end of this, it says, repeated login attempts after a restriction may extend the restriction. This is the reason why that person wrote down what they said. This was written 7 months ago, but it was not properly tagged in their thread, despite the fact it should have been. They wrote this after the fact. After 4 to 5 years of not talking about the problem. But wait! There's more! It gets further down the line here. When you look at this. Do you want to know what their correction method for fixing this problem is? Outside of waiting for no less than 48 hours, 2 days, logged out before you try logging in to play multiplayer again? They redirect you to a page for uninstalling your classic games. During technical troubleshooting, you may need to fully... This was also published 7 months ago, so they wrote both of these articles back to back as a band-aid to their problem, to cover their ass. During technical troubleshooting, you may need to fully install and reinstall a game. Select your game below and follow the steps provided. To reinstall the game, use the CD/DVD or download a new copy. Here's the problem with this. This was happening to people playing with their legitimate old copies of their games. This happened to me with my legitimate copy of Diablo 2 and Lord of Destruction. Which means this was happening to people who bought the game on the digital storefront. And it was also happening to people who bought the older versions of these games with, like, the older patch notes on them. Because on the CD disc, it actually tells you the update limit of what the actual patch entailed on the disc is loaded to. And in order for you to connect to Battle.net servers, they have to update your patch, which requires you to do a little bit of, like, upkeep. You have to close your game down, and it'll do its updates, and then it'll reopen the game. This was still happening to people who had legitimate copies that worked absolutely fine before they instituted all this bullshit. And in order for you to connect to Diablo 2, guess what you have to do? You have to register an account on the Diablo storefront for Battle.net. So in order for you to play a game that doesn't require interaction with the storefront, they are quite literally rewriting you to go to the storefront and use your account. Guess what that does? It links your account to it, which means if you make a stink about this and you have these problems, that can directly affect the account status of your ability to connect to and play any other game. Oh, it gets worse. The final part of this, when I started digging into this, was why exactly were they doing this? Specifically, and making very clear to say, we're going to do this to you even if you're using a legitimate thing like a VPN. That's where it became pants on head stupid and also glaringly obvious and insane. I have to go find my tweet for this because this is the rant-inducing slight part. I'm going to read my quote verbatim. After looking into the Diablo 2 Resurrection site and how they're shipping it, I can definitively say what Blizzard's plan is, and this is my prediction. They made the classic Battle.net Diablo 2 experience literally fucking unplayable. Normal players can't connect to it if they have the problem of these fucking hoops they're being forced to jump through. And they're being told that they have to wait, or, alternatively, they can sign up for the pre-alpha and hand over their cash, and buy an official, new storefront edition version of the game behind the Battle.net DRM. And by registering these people for the storefront, that puts them right in the headline for them to be able to get in line to join Diablo 2 Resurrected's pre-alpha. That's not the most sinister part about this. That's not even the worst part. Pray tell, Carl, how can it get worse than somebody telling you that you can't play your own game that you've legally bought? How worse can it get than a company fucking you over again? Because people seem to think that Warcraft Reforged was not a precursor to what would be happening here. You want to know what's the worst part? In the forum post, they explicitly try to play down the fact that they are banning people for VPNs. Anybody remember who owns Activision Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels? Because there's something for the money? China. You know what VPNs do for China? They help them get around. They get around governmental censorship about things they shouldn't be seeing and reading. So, how many of you can raise your hand and say that you can obviously see what the fuck is going on here?
My hand is being raised.
That is possibly the most embarrassing fucking bullshit I have ever seen in my history of being a hobby consumer as a gamer. And I say not as a gamer, or as a former Blizzard fan, or as a Diablo fan, or as just a regular hard R gamer. I say as a fucking consumer. I have never been more fucking insulted, infuriated, and flabbergasted by the sheer incompetence of a marketing team and of the heads of the company than I have since the last time you shat the goddamn bed. I cannot believe that you have decided that you're going to ban people for using VPNs. As though it's a fucking crime. And you're doing
is
it,
in China.
and you're doing it so you can pad your shareholders' numbers? Really, fam? Your shareholder numbers. I'm so completely fucking done.
Well, there's so much I can unpack here now. First off, I have a copy of Overwatch that I got for free from a friend. I wanted to play that for the longest time. And then the China thing happened, and I literally just said I'm not touching Battle.net. And I'm not a big fan of, like, I'm not like your level of fan, Carl. I always wanted to play Blizzard games. Never really could. With that said, see, the thing that really turned me off to all this, the thing that there's two things here, two different experiences I've dealt with in these situations that triggered what you were saying. You said some things you didn't cover. You focused more on the VPN, Carl. When I was living 40 minutes away from my family in a nearby town where I had to commute 30 minutes to work, they had, I think, Spectrum Internet, okay? And let me tell you, I have never been so furious in my life about something. Without going too much into detail, the reason why... what they're referring to as Spectrum is because what's called a carrier grade NAT. My IP address kept coming up that I live somewhere like south side or mid north, like just above the midway mark of Indiana, because we all shared the same IP address, which meant that I could not set up servers. This one server I wanted to set up, I couldn't do it because everyone shared the same IP address. I couldn't connect to it. So, and the other thing to note of this, Carl, is this is not something that only Spectrum does. You mentioned how this is something implemented a long time ago. You said, like that part of it was at the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
When Diablo 2 came out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Funny thing about that. No wonder it's become more of a problem because I don't know if you know this, but the U.S. has, love or hate it, we have an IP. We don't have enough IP addresses to go around, and it gets worse every year. And there's no unified support on it. So meaning that some companies do this, other companies do things where I have to be on the phone call with Comcast for a good hour because for whatever reason, Netflix wouldn't work on my sister's TV. And so like God, don't get me started on this. Point is, that's a whole can of worms that's only going to get worse as more people get online. So that's a whole can of fish that freaking gave me flashbacks from multiple different scenarios, being a tech guy for my family and my friends. But then, speaking of banning people, Carl, quick question. Can you log into any other games if you have this ban? Like, could you go open up Overwatch if Diablo banned you for this?
I'm supposing if it was this temporary restriction, then it's probably not a problem. But I am not going to be able to verify that because I'm not going to give Blizzard the ability to have my money or my ability to support their product.
The reason why I ask, my theory here is that it's an entire account-wide ban. So because this archaic anti-bot shit doesn't even work, your entire library, you're like, oh, I can't log into Diablo 2. Well, I guess I'll play Overwatch. I can't play Overwatch? Are you fucking kidding me?
See, I wouldn't go that far, although that would be a concern that I have. Because this is kind of
They're not the only ones who do this.
Yeah, I know. They're not the only ones that do this, and that's what my concern is, because this is how that would fucking start. Because,
Carl,
considering the fact...
It's been like this for fucking years, and I can prove it. Not just Blizzard. I'm going to be... Okay. I had a PlayStation account. I spent so much money on that, because when I was younger, I got a lot of Rock Band games. I don't have that Sony account anymore, because Sony noticed, oh, he went online like this one time with his PS3 that's hacked. We're going to ban you. All your private purchases, gone. But not only that, that's not even the worst story I have. This is from 10 years ago. I talked to a friend who's at work, okay? I'm watching the door. I remember him walking out one day with the brand new Xbox Series or Xbox 360 S model. You know, the one that had Kinect built in or ready to go before Kinect, mind you. It's like 2010. And then a few days later, or a few months later pass, and he tells me this story. He was playing some sort of Battlefront game, and he stuck a claymore in this game on a tank, and it blew up. It took out like several people. All those people reported that person as a bot or cheater to Microsoft. And they banned his ass. And it was permanent. He calls them and they said, once it's been enacted, we can't do anything about it. Mm-hmm. He up and left and switched entirely over to Sony after that. Ever since then, I have been, well, let's just say I don't hack my Microsoft consoles because of that. Because I have so much invested in that, even from back then, when I was a huge fan of the Rock Band series. Microsoft is the one thing I don't fuck with, because it will affect my PC, my Xbox, and everything I've sunk into it. I'm actually kind of happy they got blocked by Sony, because I hate their asses. Don't get me started on that. I used to be in the ground floor of the PlayStation 3 hacking. That's a story to tell. But and this, to be quite honest, the reason I also didn't start doing Overwatch was because I felt like inevitably something like this would happen. To be quite honest, I'm kind of looking over at my Epic account. I'm wondering how long until they pull this shit. I don't use a VPN. I probably should, but I don't. But considering how much stake China has in Epic, I wouldn't be surprised. This is fucking stupid. Sorry. I had a rant there because there's so much. This is like you just twisted all my various pet peeves in one story.
It's just, it annoys me because I fucking love games and they were very important for my development because I needed to have an outlet. And as the youngest child of a family of people, when I show my mom this game and how happy I was to play it, and I'm like, Mommy, look, I can play as a holy man and he's black. Probably one of the more adorable Carl moments. You know what she fucking said? Turn that shit off. I can't have no son of mine looking at demons.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It's a piece of my childhood, but at the same time, fuck them kids. 'Cause holy shit. How? I know how, but really, rhetorically, how? How do you let yourself get here, Blizzard? How do you not just how do you just not guzzle? Not just guzzle the Chinese semen, but now you said, no, that's not enough. I don't want it from a barrel. I want it from the source. How the fuck do you do that? Dale and Breck, who are you gonna make gay now?
I mean, I'll be honest, Carl. I totally empathize with you in this, because there have been so many things where I have been like, not this thing, not this thing that I love. Don't come for my baby. Don't come for my baby. Anything but my baby. And eventually, I just said, you know what? It's gonna happen. Like at this point in my life, I have reached this kind of zenness where I say, you know what? They're gonna come for everything of mine. They're gonna come for every last damn thing. And I can no longer let myself be attached to anything, because that's a weakness they'll exploit. Fucking hell. Like, I've had to confront this head on. And I literally having a comedian whose only reason why he's not a drunkard bitch on a side of the road as an alcoholic was because of people like me who actually thought he meant something, that he actually made something that I loved. And because the only reason why he's sicking his entire follower base on me, and because I dare to disagree with your washed up ass, it's because I liked your content. I like what you made. I like your comedy. But the only reason why you're not a freaking alcoholic on the side of the road is because people like me who kept your relevance alive for fucking 20 fucking years. And yet, I had to confront this fact. And at this point, like, I've hit this like level of apex, like where it's like I am so detached. Like, Carl, to show you how little, like how far I've come in this, I had 75 amiibo in my collection about 2 weeks ago. Last Saturday, I sold them all. I did not get half of probably what I've gotten if I sold them online. But you know what? I sold them because I was so fucking done of being attached to this shit. Because I can't be attached to this stuff. It has made me a miserable man. Sorry, that was a rant and a half, but I totally get that, man. I totally get that. More than you could possibly imagine. And I hope to God, if you believe in one, that you can hit that apex because, oh Lord, I felt free after all that. It's a freeing feeling, as weird as it sounds. God, I just felt like I was given a religious moment right there. Sorry.
It is okay, dude.
Hopefully that can help someone, because let me tell you, pack rats it's a hard habit to break.
That's
kind of why I'm moving. Well, I have to move.
No, I was trying to prepare the fucking the music for the ending credits.
Oh, you're fine. I just appreciate you humoring me there, because that was, if anyone wants to know, or anyone, seriously, I have felt more freedom in fucking around with Blender all day than I ever was collecting or acquiring shit that didn't make me happy. I create more than I consume, and I am fucking happy about it. Give it a shot if you want.
Words and advice to live.
And with that, what you described there got my blood boiling, because I know that feeling like nobody's business.
Mm-hmm. That's everything that I got. Do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, no. I just capped it off, because I tell you, that's some real feels right there. Anyway, good night, everybody.
Yes. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Chicanery. We will see you next week. Hopefully next time we'll be able to have the proper show on Friday. And if we have enough time and enough things to do, we have a bonus episode on Sunday. It depends on what happens. Hopefully nobody shit themselves or dies. And I hope each and every one of you have a good night. Say goodbye, Charza.
Good night. Goodbye, Charza.
Good night, everybody. Gotta get these things fixed.
No. You muted us.
No. My video piece is not playing because OBS is fucking stupid. Happens with everything.
Can you hear me, Carl? Okay, good. Thank God. I figured out why it cuts me off. When my computer screens go to sleep, that's when it happens.
We're still on air, though.
Now I can't hear Carl. Fucking hell, come on, man.
Okay, let me try this.
God damn it again.
Let me try.
Mic check. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
Your mic cut out again. But
Yeah,
we're still on air. We're still on air, dude.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Good night, everybody.
Whenever